Chapter 126. In an instant, an extremely dazzling light came from the distant horizon. The incomparably dazzling light seemed to cover the entire world directly, making people unable to bear to look directly at it. Immediately after that, there was the huge roaring sound. Boom, boom. When the huge roar sounded, it was accompanied by an extremely strong shock wave, which swept the entire battlefield in the next instant, like a storm. The scale of this impact was so intense that it directly forced all the ninjas on the entire battlefield to retreat. And in those places closer to the shock wave, many towering trees were even lifted up by the shock wave. Kakashi and Obito are even worse. The powerful shock wave directly blew them far away, and in the end, they barely landed on a towering tree. This power is too amazing. Kakashi and Obito, who were barely standing still, looked at the fight in the center of the shock wave with horror on their faces. One-Tail Shikaku and Kyosuke's super attack collided, and the movement was so great that it directly attracted the attention of the entire battlefield. Whether it's Orochimaru, Chiyo's mother-in-law, or Luosha, Namake's Minato, even Tsunade, who was rushing over, saw the dazzling light coming from the distance and felt the shock wave of the gust of wind. At this moment, Tsunade's face was full of shock as he watched the sensational scene in the distance. That kid, how did you get to this point? Tsunade stood on a tree, looked ahead in disbelief, and muttered to himself. 460-inch tailed beast bomb. Day Tiger. The two super powerful moves collided with each other, creating a sensational scene. At first, One-Tail Shikaku was still full of self-confidence, thinking that with his tailed beast bomb, he could completely crush and destroy Kyosuke. But then, Shoha's huge yellow pupils showed an unbelievable look. How is this possible? I saw that the huge purple-black tailed beast bomb slammed into each other fiercely with Kyosuke's Day Tiger, after a stalemate. However, Kyosuke's shot of the Day Tiger seemed to be better, and then gradually pressed the huge tailed beast bomb back. That purple-black huge tailed beast bomb actually started to retreat. ABHA. Immediately after that, Kyosuke, who was taking advantage of the situation, made a sudden force bump. So, on the entire battlefield, under the watchful eyes of all, under One-Tail's unbelievable gaze, the huge black-purple-tailed beast bomb was blasted into the sky directly by Kyosuke's trick. It actually flew up. Cheat. How can that be? Throughout the battlefield, Konoha Shinobi and Sand Shinobi, under their unbelievable gazes, the black-purple-tailed beast bomb shot out of the mouth of One-Tail Shikaku, unexpectedly lost to Kyosuke's tiger-like attack, and was shot straight into the sky. Boom. Long. The tailed beast bomb, which was blown straight up, finally exploded above the sky, like a firework, emitting a dazzling flash. However, Kyosuke's next move, the Day Tiger, continued unabated and went straight towards One-Tail Shikaku. Shoha, die. At this moment, Kyosuke roared angrily at One-Tail Shikaku. Immediately afterwards, the majestic giant tiger opened its bloody mouth and flew straight towards the One-Tail Shoha. This is Kyosuke's strongest blow. Although, the Day Tiger may not be able to end the One-Tail Shizuru, but Kyosuke firmly believes that the Jinchuriki in Shikaku's body will not be able to withstand his attack. That's enough. As long as Jinchuriki dies, the tailed beast will naturally die. Impossible. It's just a mere human. How could I lose? Facing the incomparably fierce attack coming towards his face, Shoha's face was full of unbelief, and he madly murmured that it was impossible. And Jinchuriki in Shoha's body was blessed. At this moment, the eyes under his snow-white eyebrows were wide open, and there was a bit of horror on his face. Under Funfu's gaze, the gigantic tiger bared its sharp fangs and lunged at him. Is this over? In the face of this mortal move, Fufu's eyes are full of unwillingness and regret. Chiyo, I'm sorry, the mission you gave me failed, bye-bye. An old man. Shoha, I'm really sorry for hurting you. Unlike Jinchuriki, the peace with regret at the end of the day. At this moment, in the face of the next mortal ending, One-Tail Shoha looked crazy, still roaring in disobedience. No, impossible. For death, the tailed beast can be said to be not very afraid, CHFB. After all, it is impossible for the tailed beast to really die. If the tailed beast is killed, it only needs to wait a few more years, or 10 or several decades, and it can be resurrected again. Moreover, although Kyosuke's attack was extremely powerful and lethal, the One-Tail Shikaku was barely able to hold on. However, as Jinchuriki's blessing, he couldn't. Facing the attacking day tiger, he had no choice but to die. And once Finfu dies, Shoha can't live. The arrogant one-tailed Shoha, how could it be so willing to be defeated and killed by a mere human being? However, in any case, at this time, Shoha and Finfu could not avoid the ending of death. Soon, in the next instant, under the anger of one-tailed Shoha, he folded his hands as appointed by the blessing. Kyosuke's day tiger, with its unstoppable superpower, directly shrouded the body of the behemoth one-tailed Shikaku. Bang! Boom! Boom! The rumbling sound resounded throughout the battlefield again. Throughout the battlefield, people's eyes were fixed on Kyosuke's one-tailed Morizuru, who was shrouded in tigers that day. At the same time, that crisp sound also resounded in Kyosuke's mind. Ding! System prompt. Congratulations to the host for successfully hunting down the one-tailed Shoha and getting 500 quest points. Ding! System prompt. Congratulations to the host for successfully hunting down a fake Kaga level and getting 300 quest points. However, at this moment, Kyosuke had no time to think about it. Because at this time, Kyosuke's physical condition was extremely poor. Although at this time, Kyosuke's whole body was still exuding blue steam, but there were large cracks on the skin of that body. In the cracks, a lot of blood spurted out. Puff! The injury was so serious that Kyosuke finally couldn't take it anymore and spit out a mouthful of blood. At this time, Kyosuke only felt the pain that was beating on his nerves like waves, and now there was no part of Kyosuke's body that was good. If there is no perfect quality limit potion, it will restore 14% of its own maximum health effect every second. Kyosuke does not know how many times he has been hung up. Looking at the one-tailed Shikaku who was shrouded in his day, Kyosuke couldn't help but said in a low voice, "One Tail, you should be able to stop now." In a trance, Kyosuke, who was in unparalleled pain, only felt dizzy and weak, and his mind was spinning endlessly. No, this side effect, however, after the dazzling light that enveloped Shoha passed. In front of people's eyes, there is no longer the huge body of one-tailed Morizuru. Disappeared. Disappeared? Escaped to Obito in the distance, he stared at the scene in disbelief with wide eyes. The mighty one-tailed Shoha before, but now the shadow of his body has long since disappeared. No, it's not gone. When Kakashi next to Obito heard it, he couldn't help shaking his head. At this time, Kakashi was also the boss who stared at him, and said with a look of disbelief. It should be said, one-tailed Shikaku has been defeated by Uchiha Kyosuke. Although, this is an undeniable fact. However, after hearing Kakashi say this, Obito was shocked, and the complex color on his face deepened. Chapter 127. One-tailed Sho Crane. It disappeared? Idiot. It's been killed. How is that possible? That's a tail beast. Just, how could it be killed by the Konoha village people so easily? Idiot. Didn't you see clearly just now? Oh, my god. One-tailed Shikaku really got killed. Okay, great. Who solved One-tail then? And then, the fact that one-tailed Shikaku had been solved by the people of Konoha village spread throughout the entire battlefield. One-tailed Shikuru, that is their Sunigakure war weapon. However, such existences have already been killed by the people of Konoha village. What hope do they have for Sunigakure in this war with Konoha village? Before, the supply of their sand shinobi army had been destroyed by Konoha. Now, one-tailed Shikuru was wiped out by Konoha again. An atmosphere called despair gradually enveloped Sand Shinobi's battlefield. And then, Sand Shinobi came with another piece of heavy news, attacking their minds. It turned out that it wasn't Tsunade, one of the Sanins who killed one-tailed Morizuru, but Black Fang's Uchiha Kyosuke. What? It was Konoha's Black Fangs who killed one-tailed Morizuru? 5 Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Exactly. Look, the person in that direction is not Black Fangs. What? Oh, it's really Black Fangs. Sand Shinobi was completely stunned when he learned that it was Uchiha Kyosuke who killed one-tailed Morizuru. As they went along, panic could not help but rise in their hearts, and the despair shrouded above their heads was even worse. In the eyes of most Sand Shinobi, Black Fangs, Uchiha Kyosuke, he is a murderous devil without blinking an eye. The executioner. Sand Shinobi, who died under Kyosuke's hands, Sunigakure, has long been countless. At this time, Sand Shinobi was mostly desperate, and they even thought, is it necessary to continue this war? Unlike Sand Shinobi's despair, Konoha villages sighed. The Konoha shinobi people boiled over when they learned that the one-tailed Shikuru was eliminated. You must know that it is a tailed beast, a powerful weapon of war. However, next, when they learned that it was not Tsunade but Uchiha Kyosuke who killed One-Tail Morizuru, in an instant, all the Konoha shinobi fans were thoroughly boiling again. Black Fang's Uchiha Kyosuke's name. Who doesn't know the Konoha shinobi present? In particular, the members of the Uchiha family on the battlefield were even more excited when they heard that Kyosuke, the younger brother of the patriarch, had dealt with One-Tail Shukaku. This is the highlight moment for the Uchiha family. It was Uchiha Kyosuke who took down One-Tail Morizuru. This heavy news has greatly boosted the morale of Konoha. Here in Konoha, the fighting spirit is extremely high. So, taking advantage of this great opportunity, Konoha, who was full of fighting spirit, directly killed Sand Shinobi, who was shrouded in despair. Invincible. The battle started again after Kyosuke killed One-Tail Morizuru. The Sand Shinobi side, shrouded in despair, was losing ground under the attack of the Konoha shinobi, whose fighting spirit was extremely high. The battlefield situation, at this moment, has completely fallen to Konoha's side. Sunagakure is over. Kyosuke-kun didn't expect to have grown to this level. On the other hand, when Namikaze Minato learned that it was not Tsunade but Uchiha Kyosuke who killed One-Tail Morizuru, he couldn't help but sigh. Killing One-Tail Morizuru, Namikaze Minato didn't even dare to think about it. You know, the other party is a tailed beast, even though it is one tail. If Namikaze Minato faces One-Tail Morizuru, he can barely contain Morizuru. However, killing One-Tail Morizuru is simply impossible for Namikaze Minato. So Kyosuke took out One-Tail Morizuru, which was beyond Namikaze Minato's imagination. On the other hand, Luo Sha was stunned when he learned that One-Tail Shoha was killed by Konoha's people. One-Tail Shukuru, one of their Sunagekyure's biggest supporters, was killed. So, is there any point in continuing this battle with Konoha? And next, when Luo Sha learned that it was Uchiha Kyosuke who killed One-Tail Shukaku. At first, when Luo Sha heard the news, he thought it was just a fabrication. Uchiha Kyosuke's strength, Luo Sha, is he not clear? It was Uchiha Kyosuke who killed the One-Tail Morizuru. It's a joke? However, on the battlefield, the vast majority of Sand Shinobi and Konoha Shinobi said that it was Uchiha Kyosuke who killed One-Tail Shukaku. At this time, Luo Sha had to believe it. Uchiha Kyosuke, it's him again. Uchiha Kyosuke kills One-Tail Morizuru. This, for a split second, Luo Sha only felt that all the strength in his body had been drained. Why? Why that Black Fang again, Uchiha Kyosuke? At this moment, Luo Sha felt a deep sense of powerlessness in her heart. From the very beginning of Dune Valley, Kyosuke took down their Sunagekyure's Jonin, to the raid destroying their Sunagakure supplies. Ask for flowers, then on the battlefield, Kyosuke hunts them wildly Sand Shinobi. Now, Kyosuke single-handedly took down the One-Tail Mamoru Tsuru, whose Sunagakure depended on. As if, Luo Sha felt that since their Sunagakure began to fight against Konoha, Uchiha Kyosuke was the nemesis of their Sunagakure. Uchiha Kyosuke, he always shows his sharp fangs in the dark when you don't expect it to catch you off guard. Uchiha Kyosuke is like a nightmare, haunting Luo Sha. Good chance. Seeing Luo Sha on the opposite side in a trance, Namikaze Minato's eyes flashed. Now for Namikaze Minato, it's definitely a good time to attack and kill Luo Sha. On the battlefield, a sneak attack is not a shameful thing. Namikaze Minato, who seized this great opportunity, immediately launched the Flying Thunder God technique. Zero at this time, Luo Sha, who was in a depressed mood, noticed that Namikaze Minato, who was on the opposite side, had disappeared. Immediately, he was shocked. On the battlefield, distraction is the most deadly thing. However, although Luo Sha responded quickly, it was still too late. Before, when he was fighting hard with Luo Sha, Namikaze Minato secretly used the Flying Thunder God technique on Luo Sha's body long before he knew it. At this time, if he wants to attack Luo Sha, it will be a piece of cake. Between lightning and flint, Namikaze Minato, who launched the Flying Thunder God technique, suddenly appeared on Luo Sha's back before Luo Sha had time to react. Stab. The sound of kuwu piercing the vest and piercing the flesh and blood came from Luo Sha's back. At this moment, Luo Sha stared at the boss. He only felt a burning hot spot on his back, and the scorching tingling sensation instantly stimulated his brain. This time, Namikaze Minato directly cut a long gap on Luo Sha's back. It starts from Luo Sha's shoulders and extends down to his hips. Namikaze Minato, hateful. However, Luo Sha is a powerhouse close to Kaga level after all. At this critical moment of life and death, he also broke out completely. I saw that Luo Sha endured the severe pain and quickly launched ninjutsu. Magnet style a gold duster. Soon, spikes formed from countless gold dust suddenly appeared on Luo Sha's back, stabbing straight at Namikaze Minato on his back. After the attack was successful, Namikaze Minato originally wanted to take advantage of this great opportunity to continue his efforts to kill Luo Sha, a difficult opponent, in one fell swoop. You must know that before he fought against Luo Sha, the other party had been suppressing him faintly. Now that Luo Sha has been severely damaged, Namikaze Minato certainly wants to take the opportunity to kill Luo Sha. Chapter 128. However, Luo Sha's gold thorns directly forced Namikaze Minato to retreat. Pity. In his heart, Namikaze Minato straightened a pity, and after he sighed, he quickly backed away. Namikaze Minato. Pushing back Namikaze Minato, Luo Sha turned around and stared at the opponent in front of him with a gloomy expression. Unconsciously, Namikaze Minato actually left the Flying Thunder God spell on his body, which Luo Sha did not notice. At the same time, Luo Sha was extremely vigilant in his heart. If it wasn't for his quick reaction just now, maybe Namikaze Minato would have killed him. However, the huge fiery wound on his back also stimulated Luo Sha's nerves all the time. Soon, Luo Sha found the Flying Thunder God spell that Namikaze Minato had left on him and wiped it away. Luo Sha, surrender. You Sunagakure have been defeated. Seeing that Luo Sha found and erased the Flying Thunder God technique so quickly, Namikaze Minato didn't pay much attention to 460 and said to Luo Sha in a deep voice. After all, his whereabouts just now also revealed the location of the Flying Thunder God technique. Surrender? Despite the burning pain in his back, Luo Sha laughed angrily when she heard Namikaze Minato's words. Why do you Konoha village think that we Sunagakure will definitely lose? 99 Then, Luo Sha stopped talking nonsense and attacked the pass directly. Immediately, countless gold spears rushed towards Namikaze Minato. With Namikaze Minato's speed, he easily evaded this seemingly dense and terrifying attack. The figure flashed quickly, and Namikaze Minato appeared on the other side. Seeing Luo Sha, who was still stubborn and resisted to the death, he couldn't help shaking his head. Can't you see the current situation clearly? Namikaze Minato is right. Since One-Tail Morizuru was killed by Kyosuke, it was like the last straw that overwhelmed their Sand Shinobi. On the battlefield, Sand Shinobi, who was shrouded in despair and fear, was simply unwilling to fight, and was defeated like a mountain in the face of the attack of Konoha Shinobi. In fact, Luo Sha has already noticed this situation. However, in the face of such a result, it is really difficult for him to accept. At this time, on the battlefield, it has completely evolved into a one-sided killing. In front of the Konoha Shinobi army with high fighting spirit, the desperate Sand Shinobi almost collapsed. Kyosuke there. When the One-Tail Morizuru was finally killed, Kyosuke's heart was tense, and he could relax. After killing One-Tail Shikaku, at this time, 17 seconds have passed by maintaining his state. That is to say, there are still 3 seconds, and the effect of the perfect quality limit potion will completely fail. Looks like it's too late. Kyosuke breathed a sigh of relief when he learned that there were still 3 seconds of the recovery effect. Immediately afterwards, a huge pain swept through the whole body, accompanied by dizziness and weakness, and the mind began to revolve. No, this side effect. After exerting his full strength, the Day Tiger was beyond the limit for Kyosuke after all. Although, Kyosuke died in agony at this time. However, he can't relax. You know, this is on the battlefield. If Kyosuke is unlucky, he meets Sand Shinobi. Now, with Kyosuke's bad situation, let alone Jonin, it's a Chunin who can easily kill Kyosuke. But now, with Kyosuke's overdraft situation, he is completely powerless and can only be slaughtered by others. Afterwards, Kyosuke was no longer able to support 8 inner gates, and the blue steam that enveloped his body gradually disappeared. Immediately after, Kyosuke fell directly from the sky. Damn, it's over. Feeling the rapid fall of his body and the sound of the wind in his ears, Kyosuke couldn't help but reveal an extremely ugly smile. Now his state is already very bad, almost seriously injured. Originally, he still had 3 seconds to recover 42% of his maximum health. If he fell, Kyosuke wouldn't die, but he would definitely be crippled. For a time, Kyosuke was about to cry without tears. One-Tail Shikaku didn't destroy Kyosuke. Could it be that he was going to destroy himself in this way, in a tragic way? Helpless, Kyosuke had no choice but to close his eyes, listening to the whirring of the falling wind in his ears. At this time, A figure came from a distance and quickly headed towards Kyosuke. Suddenly, Kyosuke only felt that the speed of his fall had stopped, and the whistling wind in his ears also disappeared. There is no terrifying touch of falling to the ground and hitting the cold and stiff ground. Kyosuke only felt that he was caught, and his back was pressed against an extremely soft spot. This feeling, very soft and warm, Kyosuke even smelled a faint scent. Kyosuke was very familiar with this scent, but he couldn't remember who it belonged to for a while. Feeling the comfortable touch coming from his back, Kyosuke subconsciously wanted to turn his body and twist a few times to get a better feel. However, Kyosuke had forgotten the condition of his body at this time. When he twisted a little, suddenly, a sharp, bone-piercing pain whipped his nerves fiercely. Under the pain, Kyosuke couldn't help but let out a cry. Little devil, be honest with the old lady. She looks like this, and it's not too restless. Kyosuke, who was in pain, heard Tsunade's familiar rebuke. It was the Tsunade woman. When he thought that Tsunade saved him, Kyosuke's heart subconsciously thought of the familiar scent he smelled just now. Sure enough, it's really something that Tsunade has on that woman. This time, Kyosuke was completely relieved. There is no need to get close to the ground, otherwise, Kyosuke will definitely have to lie in the hospital bed for a year and a half. Although Kyosuke didn't dare to move at all now, it didn't affect his speech much. Sister Tsunade, why are you here? Being caught from the air by Tsunade, Kyosuke asked Tsunade's white jaw in front of him. Before, Tsunade was terrified by Kyosuke's blood, and he was stunned. At that time, Kyosuke took the opportunity to directly stamp Tsunade with his personal seal. So, looking at Tsunade's snow-white jaw at this time, Kyosuke felt a little guilty. But fortunately, Tsunade can save Kyosuke, which means that she may not have the impression or knowledge of what happened. Kyosuke breathed a sigh of relief after realizing this. Fortunately, she didn't notice. Otherwise, Kyosuke will be miserable. But Kyosuke thinks about it and thinks this is also true. At that time, Tsunade looked lost, and it was impossible to have an impression of what she did. As for Tsunade, hearing Kyosuke's words, she did not answer, but said rather playfully, "Boy, I didn't expect the old lady to look down on you after all." Having said this, Tsunade suddenly lowered his head and stared at Kyosuke, who was immobile in her arms. 8 inner gates, performing that extremely dangerous forbidden technique. I didn't expect you to survive. Hey. After Kyosuke heard this, a black line rose up in his forehead. Why? Listen to your old woman's tone. The feeling is that I didn't die and you are not happy? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I didn't die. Kyosuke pursed his lips and replied. Chapter 129. That nasty little b******************** d. It's so nasty. The words that came out of Kyosuke's mouth were still as maddening as ever, and directly caused Tsunade's forehead to rise a few big tic-tac-toe. Therefore, Tsunade directly released harsh words, threatening Kyosuke. Boy, if you dare to say this to me again, be careful that I will throw you down. Tsunade caught the falling Kyosuke in the air, so the two of them were still in the air. Sure enough, upon hearing Tsunade's threat, Kyosuke kept his mouth shut and stopped fighting Tsunade. Kyosuke felt that his own life was the most important thing, and he couldn't compete with the old woman Tsunade. However, Kyosuke decided that if there is a chance in the future, he must teach this woman a lesson. Well, the best way is to sacrifice your own magic weapon and teach this old woman a lesson. At this moment, Kyosuke thought hard in his heart. At this time, Tsunade, who was holding Kyosuke, looked at Kyosuke, who was holding Kyosuke in her arms. Well, this kid is still very quiet. However, when Tsunade looked at Kyosuke's handsome, harmless face, he felt a deep malice inexplicably. Could it be 27 my illusion? In Tsunade's heart, he couldn't help but secretly ask himself. However, no matter what, Tsunade still didn't plan to let Kyosuke in his arms. There are not many that can fix Kyosuke's situation. Usually, in Tsunade and Kyosuke confrontation, Tsunade is angry with Kyosuke. Boy, you have today too. Now, you are finally in the hands of the old lady. See what I do with you. Thinking of this, Tsunade's beautiful face showed a bright smile. And Kyosuke, who was in Tsunade's arms, saw Tsunade suddenly smiled strangely, and he secretly complained in his heart. It's over. This woman isn't going to abuse me, right? No, big sister. I'm all hurt like this. Uchiha Kyosuke, you have today too? Kyosuke looks confused. Tsunade looked at Kyosuke in her arms and smiled brightly. Good, call my old lady sister, otherwise Also sister. Sister, I can even call you Andy? Kyosuke couldn't stop complaining in his heart. However, Kyosuke didn't dare to say that. Who could guarantee Tsunade that she would really throw Kyosuke out of him? Sister, good sister, little sister, Tsunade sister, you are my good sister. In desperation, Kyosuke forced himself to smile, and kept shouting at Tsunade with a mouthful of a little sister and a good sister. Kyosuke kept calling him a good sister, and Tsunade got goosebumps when he heard it. However, seeing Kyosuke in his arms flatteringly complimenting him with a smile, Tsunade felt extremely relieved. It is as refreshing as eating a bowl of ice sour plum soup in the 6 dog days. Before, Tsunade was depressed and frustrated with Kyosuke. At this moment, all the voices of Kyosuke's good sister and young sister gradually dissipated. You guy. Okay, enough. Don't call anymore. This sound of Kyosuke's good sister, young sister, directly asked Tsunade to refuse it. At this time, Tsunade's face could not help but rise slightly red. Ah, is that enough? Watching Tsunade stop himself from talking, Kyosuke asked. At the same time, Kyosuke also showed a bit of pity on his face, looking a little unfinished. Make no mistake, Kyosuke is not addicted to licking Tsunade. In fact, seeing the blush that rose up on Tsunade's beautiful face, the embarrassment that appeared, Kyosuke only found it more interesting. Kyosuke didn't expect that an old woman like Tsunade would have such a side. Interesting. Anyway, say something nice and compliment without losing the meat. But, to be honest, calling Tsunade such a nasty name made Kyosuke feel a chill in his heart. Then what do you want? After speaking, Tsunade also glanced at Kyosuke. Seeing Tsunade's expression, Kyosuke felt a shiver all over his body. What? It hurts. It was only then that he realized that he was Kyosuke who was seriously injured, and immediately began to cry in pain. Ha, you guy, you deserve it. Seeing Kyosuke in such a tragic state, Tsunade was also amused by Kyosuke. Kyosuke, however, Uchiha Kyosuke, you really make me curious. 35 After laughing, Tsunade looked down at Kyosuke in his arms, her beautiful eyes twinkling with curiosity. Don't be curious about me, otherwise, woman, you will be in danger. Originally, Kyosuke wanted to push back like this. However, when he thought about his current situation, his life was still in the hands of Tsunade, and Kyosuke held back. After the forbidden technique of 8 inner gates was launched, not only did you kill the one-tail Shoha, but you didn't die. TSK. Having said that, Tsunade looked at Kyosuke and gasped in amazement. Little devil, what's your pervert physique? As a medical ninja, Tsunade clearly knows how dangerous the opening of 8 inner gates is to the human body. Judging from the extent to which Kyosuke killed the one-tail Shikaku, Tsunade believes that Kyosuke at least opened the 8 inner gates to the 6th gate. No, most likely the 7th gate shocked. However, from Tsunade's point of view, Kyosuke's body is now in a very bad and serious condition, but at most it is in a state of serious injury. Using Kyosuke's body to open the 7th gate of the 8 inner gates, and even kill the one-tail Mamoru, Kyosuke was only seriously injured. This Uchiha Kyosuke's physique is too pervert. Or, U463 Uchiha Kyosuke's physique is different from ordinary people. Different from most people? Thinking of this, Tsunade looked at Kyosuke, and there were stars in her eyes. This seems to be worthwhile research. For a time, Tsunade suddenly developed a strong interest in Kyosuke's body and was curious. However, as Tsunade looked at him so fiery, Kyosuke had goosebumps all over his body. Tsunade looked at his eyes. Kyosuke was familiar. Yes, Kyosuke is very familiar. Because Tsunade's eyes are very similar to the eyes that Orochimaru looked at Kyosuke when he first met. To be honest, Kyosuke couldn't bear Tsunade's hot eyes. You know, Tsunade is a medical ninja. If Tsunade goes back to Orochimaru and is keen on doing biological research experiments, thinking about Kyosuke makes me feel scared. So, Kyosuke hurriedly said, well, Tsunade-san, now is not the time to study this. 35 I've been hurt like this. Should you think more about me now? How can you treat me? 5 To be honest, Kyosuke was quite speechless towards Tsunade. Kyosuke himself was seriously injured. Tsunade, she was fine, and she didn't take it too seriously. You know, little brat, it's so long-winded. Seeing Kyosuke change the subject, Tsunade glared at him and said, Chapter 130. Do your own sins? Long-winded? I just said it. You say I'm long-winded? Kyosuke felt that he and Tsunade were not talking on the same channel. Oh, so tired. So, Kaiosuk didn't bother to pay attention to Tsunade anymore. After a while, Tsunade hugged Kaiosuk and fell to the ground. Just when Tsunade was about to put Kaiosuk on the ground and perform medical ninjutsu to heal Kaiosuk, Kaiosuk didn't know how to get it. Looking at Tsunade, who was about to put himself down, he suddenly interjected and said, "Forehead." "Tsunade, aren't you suffering from hyperphobia? Why are you not afraid now? Is your hyperphobia better?" To be honest, Kaiosuk is still curious about this. After all, Kaiosuk was badly wounded with blood all over his body. Just now, Tsunade hugged Kaiosuk, who fell, and a lot of blood was already on her body. But so far, Tsunade has not shown her hyperphobia. This situation made Kaiosuk a little puzzled. You know, when Kaiosuk started 8 inner gates before, he was bleeding all over. Tsunade immediately became distracted and at a loss when he saw it. At this time, Tsunade, who had a lot of blood on his body, seemed to be fine. This had to make Kaiosuk feel that Tsunade's blood phobia symptoms were cured. Maybe it was Tsunade's hyperphobia that was stimulated by seeing Kaiosuk bleeding all over his body before. At this time, Kaiosuk had to think so. But soon, Kaiosuk realizes how stupid he is to ask this question. I saw that when Kaiosuk asked Tsunade if her fear of blood was getting better, Tsunade was about to put Kaiosuk down, and suddenly, her body shook violently. This shock caused Kaiosuk to suffer directly. Kaiosuk cried out in pain and immediately complained. "I said, Tsunade, I didn't provoke you. Why did I come here again?" However, Kaiosuk immediately noticed something was wrong. I saw Tsunade holding Kaiosuk. Her whole body began to tremble uncontrollably, and her hands loosened. Bang! Immediately, Kaiosuk had a direct and intimate contact with the ground. This sour, Kaiosuk, who was in close contact with the ground, took a deep breath. Going along, Kaiosuk felt like he was dying in pain. You know, if Kaiosuk moved his body casually, it hurt to death. Now, Tsunade let go and fell to the ground. That kind of severe pain lashed Kaiosuk's nerves fiercely. Kaiosuk, who fell abruptly to the ground, directly yelled at Tsunade, "This be ****. Tsunade, I am XXX. You be ****. You really owe XXX." However, it wasn't that he let Kaiosuk scold Tsunade, and he didn't hear any reaction from Tsunade. So, Kaiosuk stopped cursing and looked up at Tsunade beside him. Blood at this time. Tsunade completely lost the appearance of fighting wits and courage with Kaiosuk just now. Her whole body trembled, and she kept saying blood. And in Tsunade's mind, an endless sea of blood suddenly appeared, surrounding her. Tsunade wrapped his arms around his chest, his body trembling, and those beautiful eyes were no longer as bright as they used to be. Seeing Tsunade like this, Kaiosuk was speechless. Hyperphobia. Emotionally, Tsunade's hyperphobia is not good at all. At this time, Kaiosuk, who was lying on the ground, couldn't help but want to slap himself directly. "What are you saying? What are you doing? Looking for trouble?" "It's all right now. Ask for trouble." Now, the situation has become embarrassing. Tsunade, who was suffering from hyperphobia, was shivering at the sidelines, and Kaiosuk, who was seriously injured, could not move at all and could only lie on the ground in resignation. At this moment, Kaiosuk, who was lying rigidly on the ground, looked at Tsunade, who was trembling absently beside him. "This is really my own fault." However, Kaiosuk feels fortunate that, even though he was thrown to the ground by Tsunade like this, he died in pain. Fortunately, Kaiosuk's physical condition did not suffer too severe trauma. Speaking of which, Kaiosuk had to thank Tsunade for catching him in midair to avoid the serious consequences of Kaiosuk's fall to the ground. However, even in such a situation, Kaiosuk is still depressed. And just like that, Tsunade and Kaiosuk, a man and a woman, stood trembling and lay stiff. This picture, on this battlefield, is particularly abrupt and conspicuous. Fortunately, this situation did not last long. Kaiosuk and Tsunade, these two strange postures. After a stalemate for a while, Kaiosuk heard clear footsteps not far away. As soon as he heard the footsteps, Kaiosuk's heart sank. Oops. Right now, both Kaiosuk and Tsunade are in the worst state, and they are just like fish on a chopping block, to be slaughtered by others. If it comes from Konoha Shinobi, Kaiosuk and Tsunade are lucky. But if it's Sand Shinobi, Kaiosuk felt that he and Tsunade, an unreliable woman, were probably going to be a pair of lonely souls. But on second thought, Kaiosuk felt something was wrong. He clearly has nothing to do with Tsunade. At most, Kyosuke just took advantage of Tsunade's words. How can he be a lonely soul? Just when Kyosuke's heart sank, and he was worried. When Kyosuke heard the other party's voice, Kyosuke heaved a sigh of relief and felt relieved. Fortunately, it was my own person. Uchiha Kyosuke, are you all right? Master Tsunade, why are you here? At this time, Kakashi and Obito came here. When the two of them saw that Kyosuke and Tsunade were both here, Kakashi couldn't help asking. Not long ago, after Kyosuke killed One-Tail Morizuru, the crisis was resolved, and Kakashi, who was worried about Kyosuke's safety, discussed with Obito to come here. From Kakashi's point of view, although Kyosuke managed to get rid of One-Tail Shikaku, he must have been seriously injured, and Kin must need help. At that time, when Obito heard Kakashi tell him to come to Kyosuke, Obito was silent. He followed Kakashi here without expressing his consent or refusal. Sure enough, Kakashi guessed right. At this point, Kakashi saw Kyosuke lying on the ground with a lot of bloodline on his body, and he looked very bad. And Tsunade-sama was also by Kyosuke's side. However, what confuses Kakashi and Obito a bit is, why did Tsunade-sama wrap her arms around her tremblingly? Her eyes were absent, as if she was frightened. Kakashi and Obito saw this scene and thought it was abnormal. You know, Tsunade is the hero of the village, one of Konoha Sannin, but now, Tsunade-sama seems to be frightened. It's really weird. Oh, so it's Kakashi. From the direction of the footsteps, Kyosuke recognized Kakashi. Chapter 131. The arrival of Kakashi reassured Kyosuke a lot. Just now, Kyosuke thought it was Sand Shinobi. You know, the name of Kyosuke's Black Fangs not only deterred Sand Shinobi, but also attracted Sand Shinobi's hatred value. If Sand Shinobi bumps into Kyosuke, who can only be slaughtered at this time, they will not immediately give Kyosuke to Uba. When Kakashi came to him, Kyosuke realized that Obito was following him. But Kyosuke was relieved when he thought about it. After all, they were in the same team, and they could take care of each other when they acted together on the battlefield. At this time, Obito followed Kakashi to Kyosuke. Looking at Kyosuke lying on the ground with blood all over his body and looking miserable, Obito's expression was very complicated. Kyosuke, how are you? Is your injury serious? Kakashi, who stepped forward, looked at Kyosuke lying on the ground and asked with concern. Kyosuke twitched the corners of his mouth. Fortunately, I can't die for the time being. Kakashi, number 1. Kyosuke was seriously injured, and it would be difficult to recover if he did not take good care of him for 10 days and a half months. And I have to say, Kyosuke's luck is not bad. The consequences of forcibly opening the 7th gate of the 8 inner gates, the body is only seriously injured. If it were someone else, he would have died a long time ago. Kyosuke's body was covered in blood, so when Kakashi saw it, he wanted to help Kyosuke deal with it immediately. However, after thinking about it, Kakashi decided not to do it for the time being. After all, Tsunade next to Kyosuke is known as the strongest medical ninja in Konoha Village. With Tsunade as a professional at 467, Kakashi thought it would be better for him not to interfere. However, seeing Tsunade's arms around his chest and his body trembling as if he was frightened, Kakashi wondered, Tsunade-sama? What's the matter with her? Master Tsunade? Master Tsunade, what's wrong with you? Seeing Tsunade's eccentric appearance, Kakashi couldn't help but let out a few words. And Obito on the side, looking at Tsunade at this time, is also very strange. Seeing Kakashi calling Tsunade, Kyosuke, who knew why, coughed a few times. When Kakashi and Obito heard Kyosuke's cough, they both looked at Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground. Kakashi, stop yelling. Tsunade-sama, her situation is very special. At this time, Kyosuke had to speak. Is this situation special, Tsunade-sama? What does it mean? When Kakashi and Obito heard Kyosuke's words, they became even more puzzled. Looking at Kakashi's puzzled eyes, Kyosuke couldn't say anything. After all, the less known about Tsunade's hyperphobia, the better. It's hard to say. But don't think about it. Tsunade will be fine after a while. 35 So, Kyosuke had to explain it this way. However, Kyosuke's explanation made Kakashi and Obito more curious about Tsunade's condition. However, Kakashi knew that Kyosuke said this, CHFB, and he definitely didn't want him and Obito to know. Kakashi and Obito, who were wondering in their hearts, had to listen to Kyosuke's words and stood by and waited quietly. Uchiha Kyosuke, your injury, does it matter? Should I take care of it for you? Kakashi, who was standing silently waiting, asked Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground in a miserable state. Kakashi was entirely out of kindness, but Kyosuke said, "Don't be so troublesome. I'll talk about it when Tsunade-sama recovers." Now Kyosuke is seriously injured, and even moving his body is painful. Lying on the ground now, Kyosuke felt that the situation was already very good. Besides, Kakashi was not a professional medical ninja and would only simply deal with wounds. If Kakashi were to bandage the wound, would it still hurt Kyosuke to death? Hearing Kyosuke's words, Kakashi nodded. Afterwards, Kakashi looked around at the scene of the huge damage and spoke with amazement. "Uchiha Kyosuke, did you really kill the one-tail Morizuru?" Obito, who was silent next to him, couldn't help but move when he heard Kakashi's words. Regarding this issue, Obito really wanted to hear from Kyosuke. "That's it." Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground, said casually. Hearing Kyosuke admit this fact, Kakashi and Obito were shocked, although they already knew that one-tail Morizuru was Kyosuke who killed him. However, when they heard Kyosuke confess that he had killed one-tail Morizuru, they were still quite shocked. Kakashi looked at Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground in a state of embarrassment at this time, and his heart was filled with respect and admiration for Kyosuke. You know, it's a tailed beast. Although, Kakashi is known among his peers as a genius among geniuses. However, in front of the mighty one-tail Shikaku, he could only run away. After that, Kakashi really grew and became stronger. Kakashi couldn't guarantee that when he faced one-tail Shizuru, he would be able to defeat it. And now, Kyosuke has reached a level that Kakashi may not be able to achieve in the future. After that day, when Uchiha Kyosuke grew up, Kakashi still had to look at Kyosuke from a distance. Different from Kakashi's admiration, Obito on the side. A deep sense of powerlessness rose in his heart. Obito only felt that the gap between him and Kyosuke was not a big distance at all. Very far distance. It's the kind of figure who looks at Kyosuke from a distance from behind, and can only see Kyosuke's figure disappearing indistinctly. However, it can't be said that the beast was killed. Just when Kakashi sighed and Obito felt powerless, Kyosuke suddenly changed his words. "Can't be said to have killed one-tail Mamoru?" What does it mean? When Kakashi and Obito heard Kyosuke's words, they felt extremely conflicted. Kyosuke just admitted that he killed one-tail Shikaku, and now he said he didn't kill that beast? Isn't this statement inconsistent? Then, Kyosuke said slowly, "The so-called tailed beast refers to a giant chakra-materialized life form with a tail." Having said that, Kyosuke paused. So, in the sense of most species, the tailed beast is an immortal existence, and it cannot be killed. Can't kill? Hearing this, Kakashi and Obito's pupils shrank suddenly. If Kyosuke said so, isn't that the one-tail Morizuru didn't die? Will the beast come back to life? A powerful monster that cannot be killed. Sensing the worries of Kakashi and Obito, Kyosuke continued to explain with a smile. But you don't have to worry. Although the tailed beast is an existence that will be resurrected after being killed, it is not so easy to be resurrected. Generally speaking, the beast will not appear again after a few years, or 10 or 20 years. Kakashi and Obito breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Kyosuke's explanation. Fortunately, that powerful monster will not be resurrected immediately. Otherwise, Kakashi and Obito felt that the unkillable tailed beast was the super invincible powerful existence in the ninja world. In this battle with Sunagakure, Konoha village doesn't have to fight anymore. Just relying on one-tail Morizuru can destroy Konoha. After a while, Tsunade, who was standing beside Kyosuke, was still shivering with his arms around his chest. Obviously, Tsunade's blood phobia was more severe than the previous one. Kyosuke also felt more and more regrets. Oh, nothing to remind Tsunade, this silly woman. This can be troublesome. Kyosuke, who hasn't seen Tsunade getting better in a long time, is really speechless. Kyosuke felt that Tsunade was even more unreliable than Jiraiya. It seems that among the Konoha Sannin, the one who loves to do scientific research experiments, Kyosuke's cheap teacher Orochimaru, does a lot of things reliably. If Tsunade's hyperphobia didn't get better, Kyosuke would have to lie on the ground like a corpse. Although, the current situation is still good. However, Kyosuke didn't want to lie down like this all the time. His serious injury, after all, still has to be treated by Tsunade, the strongest medical ninja in the ninja world. Otherwise, how to recover quickly? Kyosuke looked at the other side, Kakashi and Obito, who were standing dumbfounded. I had no choice but to wake Tsunade up. Otherwise, it would not be a problem to be so stalemate all the time. You know, this is still on the battlefield. God knows if Sand Shinobi will kill him at the next moment. Chapter 132. Kakashi, come over here. At this time, Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground, stopped Kakashi, who was standing not far away. Uchiha Kyosuke, what's the matter? Kakashi asked. Go and wake Tsunade up, Kyosuke said directly. Kyosuke felt that he couldn't drag it on any longer. He had to do something. Wake? How do you wake up Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked in confusion. I haven't tried Kakashi and Obito before, but it didn't work. No matter how Kakashi and Obito yelled in front of Tsunade, Tsunade was still trembling with fright. Isn't there a small river over there? You go and fill it with water and pour it directly on Tsunade. Kyosuke seriously said to Kakashi. Kakashi, 99 number 1. When Kakashi heard this, he couldn't help laughing and crying. Wake up Tsunade-sama with water. Are you kidding me? Besides, Tsunade is one of Konoha Sannin, the hero of Konoha village. Even if you give Kakashi 1,000, 10,000 courage, he will not dare. Forehead, Uchiha Kyosuke, you are joking. 35 Kakashi's forehead is full of black lines. He didn't dare to do such a rebellious thing. Obito on the side also looked at Kyosuke with a strange face. Waking up Tsunade-sama with water, thanks to Uchiha Kyosuke, he figured it out. It's okay, Kakashi. As long as you can wake Tsunade her, I promise, she won't blame you. Kyosuke continued to persuade Kakashi. At best, Kakashi, you won't be beaten to death by Tsunade. In his heart, Kyosuke secretly added a sentence. I dare not do that. Regardless of Kyosuke's persuasion, Kakashi insisted on shaking his head in refusal. Otherwise, you can let Obito come. So, Kakashi pushed the matter directly to Obito. I come. Kakashi, your uncle. Obito cursed Kakashi fiercely in his heart. Then, Obito was also panicked, and quickly waved his hand to refuse and said, Kakashi, what are you kidding? That's Tsunade-sama. Anyway, don't involve me in this matter. 39 Kyosuke. Looking at Kakashi and Obito who refused, Kyosuke felt that his forehead was a little big. Splashing water on Tsunade wakes up, although this is a trick, but it works well. Originally, Kyosuke wanted to use this trick to get Kakashi to do it. However, it seems that Kyosuke still thinks highly of Kakashi and Obito. For Tsunade, Kakashi and the two of them are respectful from the bottom of their hearts. How could they be like Kyosuke, who didn't know what respect was? To be honest, Kyosuke was just talking about this method. If he had to splash the woman with water instead, with Tsunade's unfriendly attitude towards Kyosuke, Kyosuke absolutely believes that Tsunade will definitely beat the seriously injured Kyosuke to a serious disability. Hey, let's forget it. Why wait? Maybe Tsunade will slow down after a while. Kyosuke sighed and had to say that. The three waited in place for a while. However, Tsunade still looked like he was lost, and there was no sign of coming back to his senses at all. Can't wait. Lying on the ground like a corpse, Kyosuke felt extremely uncomfortable. If he is seriously injured, if he does not receive treatment, Kyosuke's condition will get worse. So, Kyosuke decided to go for it. Isn't it just to wake Tsunade? Something so simple. He has nothing to fear. Gone. Kakashi, come here. Kyosuke called out to Kakashi not far away again. Just now, Kyosuke suggested that Tsunade be woken up by splashing water, which really scared Kakashi. In order to prevent Kyosuke from instigating him to do this rebellious thing again, Kakashi cautiously ducked aside. Likewise, Obito, like Kakashi, is far away. What's the matter, Uchiha Kyosuke? Kakashi, not far away, had a wary look on his face. Looking at Kakashi's vigilant appearance not far away, Kyosuke was speechless. Don't worry, it's nothing to make you embarrassed, Kyosuke said helplessly. Uchiha Kyosuke, let me tell you first, if I'm going to do something offensive to Tsunade-sama, I won't do it. Kakashi, who came over, was still a little worried, so he told Kyosuke in advance. Looking at Kakashi's face with a black mask, Kyosuke was speechless. Don't worry, Kakashi, I won't cheat a him. You won't be allowed to do anything against your will. Kyosuke had to say this. Come on, help me up. Ask for flowers. Kyosuke, who had been lying dead on the ground for a long time, said to Kakashi, who stepped forward. Hearing that he was helping Kyosuke get up, Kakashi breathed a sigh of relief. If that's all there is to it, that's fine. So Kakashi felt relieved, and slowly helped Kyosuke, who had been lying dead for a long time, to get up. Although, Kyosuke rested on the ground for a long time and recovered a bit. However, when he was seriously injured, when he was helped by Kakashi, he was still in pain. Even, Under this involvement, many wounds were pulled out of blood. Therefore, it was sour and refreshing, and it was extremely uncomfortable for Kyosuke to prepare the ground directly. Finally, with the help of Kakashi, Kyosuke reluctantly stood up. At this time, in front of Kyosuke's eyes, he was facing Tsunade, who was in a trance, with his arms around his chest and a massive, shivering figure. At close range, Kyosuke could still hear Tsunade murmuring, trembling in his mouth. Seeing Tsunade's pitiful appearance, to be honest, Kyosuke felt a little uncomfortable at first. At the same time, looking at Tsunade, Kyosuke's eyes were filled with pity. Alas, although this woman is hateful, she is also pitiful. The tragic death of his younger brother Senjinawaki, followed by the tragic death of his first love, caused Tsunade to suffer from hyperphobia, and her eldest grandfather Senju Hashirama, second grandfather Senju Tobarama died one by one. Then, under the shadowy operations of third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo, and many others in the village, the situation of the Senju family is not as good as before. If Tsunade hadn't been a ninja with a tenacious heart, Kyosuke felt that Tsunade would not have been able to withstand all these huge changes. Poor girl. Kyosuke sighed in his heart. At this time, Kakashi, who was holding Kyosuke by the side, looked at Kyosuke with a strange expression on his face. This Uchiha Kyosuke, what does he want to do? Could it be that he really wanted to wake Tsunade? Impossible. After all, that is Tsunade-sama. No matter how daring Uchiha Kyosuke is, it is impossible for him to do such a treacherous thing. However, when Kakashi thought about the scene where Kyosuke faced Tsunade-sama before, he was not afraid to confront Tsunade-sama. Soon, Kakashi again overturned the conclusion that Kyosuke did not dare to think about Tsunade-sama. Yui. Chapter 133. Is Uchiha Kyosuke afraid of Tsunade-sama? For this question, Kakashi already knew the answer to Kyosuke's attitude towards Tsunade before Lenovo. Not only is Uchiha Kyosuke not afraid of Tsunade-sama, he even dares to anger Tsunade-sama. Kakashi, what are you thinking? When Kyosuke came back to his senses, he saw Kakashi looking at him with a strange look, so he couldn't help but ask strangely. Kyosuke has no idea about Kakashi's interactivity at this time. If Kyosuke knew, he would have to give Kakashi a thumbs up. Yes, you were right. No, nothing. Kakashi, who was supporting Kyosuke, glanced at Kyosuke and shook his head. He and Uchiha Kyosuke have an average relationship and are only familiar with each other, so these words cannot be said. Kakashi's strange expression, Kyosuke, 467, didn't care either. Then, Kyosuke looked at Tsunade in front of him and sighed. I'm waking you up, Tsunade. Don't turn your back on you when you wake up. In my heart, Kyosuke said so. Next, with Kakashi and Obito watching, Kyosuke raised his hand laboriously. Uchiha Kyosuke, what is he doing? Is it? Just as Kakashi and Obito stared at the boss, staring at what Kyosuke was going to do. Snapped. A crisp slap sound rang out in this quiet environment. Uchiha Kyosuke, you actually slapped Tsunade-sama in the face. Seeing this scene, Kakashi and Obito's eyes almost went out, and their mouths could not help but open. How dare Uchiha Kyosuke do such a rebellious thing to Tsunade-sama? You know, that is Tsunade-sama, one of Konoha-sannin. Uchiha Kyosuke, how dare he? Kyosuke here. When he raised his hand with great effort, he slapped the dazed Tsunade hard and slapped her white cheek. In an instant, Kyosuke's bloody hand fell, and Tsunade's white cheek was marked with a bright red palm print. And, following that, Kyosuke couldn't help taking a breath. Hiss! It really hurts. Immediately afterwards, Kyosuke shouted at Tsunade in front of him. Tsunade, wake me up! How long will you run away? This loud shout from Kyosuke directly startled Kakashi, who was supporting Kyosuke. The second before, Kakashi was shocked by the crisp slap Kyosuke gave Tsunade. The next second, he was so frightened by Kyosuke's violent drink that he trembled all over. When Kakashi came back to his senses, he looked at Kyosuke, who was supporting him. At this moment, Kyosuke's mouth was pursed, his face was stern, and his eyes were serious. In this case, is Uchiha Kyosuke reprimanding Tsunade-sama? Kakashi was stunned by Kyosuke's actions. And Tsunade there. Tsunade, who was suffering from a blood phobia, felt like he was in an endless sea of blood. In the sea of blood, she saw her brother Nawaki, and her first love, Kaido-dan, and the scene of their tragic death, vividly remembered. Facing this scene, Tsunade collapsed and became numb. However, Tsunade, who was numb in the endless sea of blood, suddenly felt a burning pain in her cheek, as if she had been beaten. Kayasuke's slap in the face directly brought Tsunade, who was numb in the sea of blood, to the ground and slowly recovered. Immediately after that, Tsunade heard a shout. "Tsunade, wake me up! How long will you run away?" This shout resounded through Tsunade's entire mind and world. This voice belongs to Kayasuke. In the sea of blood, Tsunade, who slowly woke up from his numbness, said in a low voice. Afterwards, Tsunade only felt a burning pain in his cheeks. Moreover, Tsunade, who was in his mind, only felt that the scene in front of him began to become fragmented. A bright ray of light shot directly at her from the sky over the sea of blood, and then the ray of light gradually expanded. "Uchiha Kyosuke, you be *********D. Do you know what you're doing? That's Tsunade-sama. You actually hit Tsunade-sama?" Obito, who was full of justice, said angrily to Kyosuke. And Kakashi, who was supporting Kyosuke, saw Kyosuke's rebellious behavior, and he froze in place. "Of course I know what I'm doing." Seeing Obito suddenly come to accuse him in anger, Kyosuke smiled and said, "In this situation, I'm not going to wake up Tsunade-sama." 99 What Kyosuke said was quite natural. "Wake up Tsunade-sama? Did you do that?" Seeing Kyosuke's disgusting expression that he didn't know what he did wrong, Obito became more and more angry. Obito, he just hated Uchiha Kyosuke's naturally hateful expression. Kyosuke glanced at Obito. "Doing this? How?" Kyosuke pretended to be stunned, making Obito so angry. "Uchiha Kyosuke, you are still pretending not to admit it. You just slapped Master Tsunade directly. I saw it with my own eyes." "Huh? Tsunade-sama." However, just when Obito was about to go on, he suddenly realized that the lost Master Tsunade, who was still trembling before, seemed to have really been awakened. I saw that Tsunade's trembling body stopped. Moreover, her hands that embraced the scale were slowly put down. In Tsunade's absent-minded eyes, brilliance appeared again. "Master Tsunade, are you awake?" Obito, who sensed Tsunade's change, was stunned for a moment, and then said hesitantly. And Kyosuke, hearing Obito say that, plus Obito's appearance, 9 times out of 10, Tsunade may have really woken up. For the first time, Kyosuke just wanted to run away. He just wants to 5.1 immediately, and quickly leave this place of right and wrong. However, Kyosuke is seriously injured. How can he go? Dajdaj. Tsunade's familiar laughter suddenly sounded beside Kyosuke's ears. "Uchiha Kyosuke, I seem to have heard something incredible." At this moment, Kyosuke, who was supported by Kakashi, began to sweat on his forehead. Tsunade woke up at this time, and then she heard Obito's words again. "Shit." Kyosuke knew that his handle was caught by the woman Tsunade, so he should wait for Tsunade's revenge. "Hey, Tsunade-sama, you finally woke up. 9, it's really good." Kyosuke, whose forehead was dripping with sweat, turned his head to look at Tsunade, who was close by, and forced a smile. Chapter 134. In Kyosuke's mind, it was running wildly, thinking about what words to use to fool Tsunade. "How are you, Tsunade-sama? Are you all right now?" Tsunade-sama, just now, not only me, Kakashi and Obito were worried about your situation. Saying that, Kyosuke's eyes were full of concern. However, Tsunade, who had already woken up, was still looking at Kyosuke with his beautiful eyes. Haha, the smile on her beautiful face was not seen by others. However, when Kyosuke looked at Tsunade's smile, he felt a chill in his heart, and then he felt the temperature of the surrounding air cool down inexplicably. The more charming the smile, the more dangerous it is. Kyosuke, who was supported by Kakashi, glanced at the fresh red palm print on Tsunade's smiling face, and he couldn't help swallowing. "That, Tsunade-sama." Before Kyosuke could continue to speak, Tsunade pulled Kyosuke over. Tsunade's pulling didn't mean that Kyosuke's injury was taken into consideration at all. Kyosuke was seriously injured at this time. At 27, the sourness directly made Kyosuke take a deep breath. However, before Kyosuke could experience the sourness, Tsunade hugged Kyosuke, who was pulling him, into her arms. Hiss, hiss. In this way, Tsunade gives Kyosuke a blood-red crit directly. "Boy, don't think I don't know what you've done to me." Tsunade, who slammed Kyosuke to his hold, whispered into Kyosuke's ear and said fiercely, "Master Tsunade, what's the matter?" Although Kyosuke doesn't mind being held in Tsunade's arms, it depends on the situation. Now that he's seriously injured, Tsunade treats him like this. Kyosuke felt that his whole body was about to fall apart. Huh? You're pretending to be confused, aren't you? Seeing Kyosuke's dead duck mouth and talking nonsense to her, Tsunade got angry. So, Tsunade grabbed Kyosuke's arm and squeezed. Pain. A pain immediately rose from behind Kyosuke's forehead and then quickly spread to his limbs. What? Kyosuke didn't expect Tsunade to be so blackheart. He was so seriously injured that he dared to attack him like this. The pain caused Kyosuke to almost faint. Tsunade-sama, sister, take it easy, it's going to break. Come on, a good man does not suffer immediate losses. Kyosuke immediately showed weakness. Humph. 35, see if you dare to play with the old lady. Although, Tsunade felt a little weird when she heard Kyosuke's words. However, Tsunade also considered Kyosuke's situation. So, when Kyosuke's voice fell, she also withdrew the strength in her hand. However, Kyosuke was still held by Tsunade and did not let go. Helpless, Kyosuke had no choice but to continue tearfully comprehending that a mountain has its own height. At this time, Kakashi and Obito on the side were just dumbfounded, staring at Kyosuke and Tsunade with their mouths wide open. What's going on? Fighting? Still. However, Obito and Kakashi were also very conscious, and the two chose to retreat directly and rationally. Their intuition told them that if they got too close to Tsunade-sama and Uchiha Kyosuke, they might have bad luck. Ugh. Sister Tsunade, I was helpless just now. 39 Although the whole body was sore and painful, in order to get rid of the old woman's clutches as soon as possible, Kyosuke had to start to defend himself. Your fear of blood? No matter how much we called you before, you might not wake up. Later, I waited for a long time. Sister Tsunade, it hurts my heart to see you like this all the time. I really can't worry about it. I'm worried about your safety, that's why. I admit, I used the wrong method and offended you. However, my starting point is good. It's all for you, Tsunade-san. Besides, this is the most direct and effective way I can think of to wake you up. After he finished speaking, Kyosuke's breathing went up and down, and he seemed to have exhausted the last ounce of strength in his body and slumped directly into Tsunade's arms. If it wasn't for Tsunade's hug at this point, Kyosuke would have fallen to the ground weakly. Hearing Kyosuke's words, Tsunade couldn't help but glared at Kyosuke in his arms, gritted his teeth and said, You? Slapped me? I have to thank you? What is this nonsense? Kyosuke was speechless. Although Kyosuke agrees with Tsunade's words, Kyosuke doesn't want to ram his guns. Cough cough. The powerless Kyosuke coughed a few times, and then his face turned pale and said, Now that I know Tsunade-san, you're all right, I'm relieved. So, Tsunade-sama, whether it is life or death, it's up to you to deal with it, and there will never be any complaints. After Kyosuke said with a pale face, he couldn't help but cough a few times. That appearance, as miserable as it was as miserable as it was. If anyone else saw it, they would cry. Really. Although Tsunade does things carelessly and has no feminine tenderness at all, she is still a woman after all. Hearing Kyosuke's provocative remarks and seeing Kyosuke's miserable appearance, Tsunade softened his heart. Kyosuke's words touched the softness in Tsunade's heart after all. Humph. Tsunade snorted, no longer looked at Kyosuke viciously. His eyes seemed a little wandering, and continued to speak stubbornly. Boy, don't think that you can let you go. I tell you, it's impossible. What about the two of you? It's not over yet. After seeing Tsunade like this, Jing 467 finally breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and at the same time, he couldn't help but feel proud. It seems that selling a little bit is still useful to the old woman Tsunade. In Kyosuke's mind, there was already a trick to deal with Tsunade. Now, Kyosuke has to rely on the woman Tsunade to treat his injuries. Kyosuke coughed effortlessly. His face paled even more, and his tone became more and more weak. Cough. Since Tsunade-sama said so, then I will die without any regrets. Kyosuke said this, and Tsunade suddenly came to his senses. Kyosuke risked his life to start the forbidden technique 8 inner gates and killed one-tail Shikaku, and now his physical condition must be as bad as it gets. Treating Kyosuke like that just now. You must be too rash. In his heart, Tsunade was secretly annoyed at his own indiscriminateness. However, Tsunade doesn't know how. Every time she sees Kyosuke's delicate and handsome face, she can't help itching her teeth, and she can't wait to repair Kyosuke severely to feel relieved. Still, that can't blame Tsunade for her. After all, Kyosuke had no choice but to face Tsunade with his own taunt buff. Aware of his rashness, Tsunade also put away his temper, his face straightened. So, Konoha Village's strongest medical ninja returned to its place. Don't talk. I'll check your physical condition. Tsunade put Kyosuke in his arms on the ground and said, seriously. Chapter 135. After some careful inspection, Tsunade's beautiful face showed a more solemn look. Kyosuke's physical condition can be said to be very poor. The muscles of the whole body are severely damaged and the load is extremely heavy. Some of the bones are dislocated, and some are even broken. The skin surface is excessively chapped. Obviously, the body cannot withstand the power of the 8 inner gates forbidden technique. The severity of Kyosuke's injury was something that Tsunade had already anticipated. However, after checking Kyosuke's specific injury now, Tsunade still showed a bit of unbearable expression. After all, for Kyosuke, with his strength, it is bound to pay a huge price to open the 8 inner gates forbidden technique and defeat the one-tail Shikaku. Even, very likely to die. Besides, Kyosuke was already seriously injured, but he was still able to tolerate the trouble he made just now. Thinking about this, Tsunade felt guilty. Therefore, Tsunade no longer hesitated and immediately performed medical ninjutsu to treat Kyosuke, who was seriously injured. Green chakra energy emerged from Tsunade's palms, and he touched Kyosuke, who was lying still on the ground, to heal. When the forbidden technique 8 inner gates was turned on and the body was overloaded, he was able to kill the one-tail Shoha. Uchiha Kyosuke, I have to say that you are really lucky. Tsunade's hands radiating green chakra energy were attached to Kyosuke's body and healed as he spoke to Kyosuke. 8 inner gates. This forbidden technique, Tsunade is somewhat aware of it. That is an extremely domineering body technique forbidden technique. Once used, it can instantly gain several times, or even 10 times, the strength. However, its harm is also great, and the more it is open to the end, it will inevitably cause a huge load to the human body. Severe physical damage, paralysis, these consequences are still relatively light. In severe cases, most people will die when their bodies cannot bear the excessive load. So, Tsunade was a little surprised that Kyosuke was only seriously injured. Feeling his body in a state of serious injury and being slowly healed by Tsunade, Kyosuke twitched the corners of his mouth and replied, "Oh, maybe I'm lucky. Zero better luck?" Hearing Kyosuke's words, Tsunade couldn't help scoffing. It's not just a matter of luck. That's right. 35 at this time. Tsunade seemed to suddenly remember something, and she asked Kyosuke with doubts in her eyes, "Before, when you opened 8 inner gates, I seem to have seen some medicine you took out and injected into yourself. What is that?" Previously, when Kyosuke had just opened 8 inner gates, his whole body was bleeding, and Tsunade had a blood-phobic symptom after seeing this, although Tsunade was in a trance-like state in the state of hemophobia. However, occasionally there are still some fragments of the scene in her mind. When Tsunade had a panic attack, she happened to have footage of Kyosuke using the potion at that time. Tsunade suspects that the reason why Kyosuke survived is likely to be related to the injected drug. When Kyosuke heard Tsunade's question, his body suddenly tensed up. "What's wrong with you? Not feeling well?" 39 Kyosuke's reaction was naturally noticed by Tsunade. "No, nothing." Kyosuke forced a smile, but it was a little ugly. Kyosuke, he still remembers, that time he tasted honey in front of Tsunade herself. That's sweet, delicious. To this day, Kyosuke still remembers it. Now that Tsunade knew that Kyosuke was injected with that perfect quality limit potion at that time, does that mean that Tsunade also knew about his taste of honey? This woman, shouldn't she just kill me? Kyosuke was very worried and scared. However, seeing Tsunade's face as if he didn't know it, Kyosuke's tense heartstrings could not help loosening a little. Is it? Tsunade didn't know about eating honey at that time. Or, is Tsunade pretending to be stupid now, waiting to heal himself before preparing to settle accounts in the fall? At this moment, Kyosuke became suspicious. He was really uncertain about Tsunade's reaction. After all, the more normal Tsunade behaves, the more abnormal it appears to Kyosuke. Potion? Oh, you said that. That potion is the secret potion handed down by our Uchiha family. It's very powerful, and it's also the last in stock. It was used by my brother to save my life. Despite some trepidation, Kyosuke explained to Tsunade. After that, Kyosuke showed a very sad look on his face. However, Kyosuke really felt a little distressed about that perfect quality limit potion. That stuff is very precious and rare. Although, Kyosuke wondered what Tsunade was thinking for a while. But Tsunade is willing to continue to treat his injury, which means that Tsunade will not do it now, and Kyosuke is still safe. As for what will happen next, Kyosuke felt that it was more important to treat his injury now. Later things will be discussed later. Oh, like this? Hearing Kyosuke say that, Tsunade didn't pay much attention. After all, in most of Konoha's wealthy families, there will always be things in the bottom of the box. For example, the Akamichi family of Konoha has the secret medicine, Sanchuan, that super powerfully enhances the effect of chakra in that instant. The Uchiha family, as a wealthy family in Konoha, has that magical potion, and Tsunade is not surprised. Afterwards, Tsunade also calmed down and treated Kyosuke seriously without asking Kyosuke anything. When Kyosuke saw this, he became more and more relieved. Both Kyosuke and Tsunade were silent, and the atmosphere was temporarily quiet. After a while, Kyosuke seemed to have thought of something, looked at Tsunade who was treating himself seriously, and couldn't help but say, "Huh? Tsunade? What's up?" Kyosuke hesitated, whether to say it or not. However, he still said, "Your hyperphobia. What? Is it okay now?" To be honest, when Kyosuke said these words, it was obvious that he had no brains or long memory. Today's Kyosuke has a lot of bloodline all over his body. You know, not long ago, Kyosuke mentioned Tsunade's hyperphobia, which caused him, Zhao's, a series of self-inflicted consequences. Now, Tsunade is finally treating Kyosuke, who is seriously injured. This is probably because the scar has been healed and the pain has been forgotten, and the body is uncomfortable and needs to be cleaned up. However, Tsunade's next reaction was a bit unexpected to Kyosuke. When Kyosuke mentioned hyperphobia, he had already prepared for the worst. But who would have guessed that when Tsunade heard Kyosuke's words, she was just startled. Then, Tsunade looked at Kyosuke, who was lying on the ground with a lot of bloodline all over his body, and she didn't show any drastic reaction. It was strange that the bright red bloodline that had made her terrified before, but now, after seeing it, Tsunade felt a little distressed in her heart. "Maybe go." Tsunade simply replied, the green chakra energy on those palms still pressed against Kyosuke's body as always. Chapter 136. The main battlefield of Konoha and Sunagakure. Chiyo, at this level, do you think it's necessary for your Sunagakure to continue fighting? Orochimaru, who was standing on the huge snake head of 10,000 snakes, looked down at the mother-in-law Chiyo below. In his long golden pupils, there is the confidence that Konoha will win the war. And at Chiyo, hearing Orochimaru's words, a look of gloom appeared on her old face. If Finfu and One-Tail Shizuru joined the battlefield before, for this war with Konoha, their Sunagakure still has a little chance of winning. But what about now? One-Tail Morizuru was actually killed by Uchiha Kyosuke. Is there any hope of winning the battle between Sunagakure and Konoha? It can be said that Kyosuke killed One-Tail Morizuru by himself, which is directly equivalent to cutting off Chiyo and the last glimmer of hope for Sunagakure. Never mind. It's no longer necessary. Granny Chiyo lowered her head slightly, looking at the ground as if she was making a major decision. After a while, Chiyo raised her head again, looked up at Orochimaru. Her eyes were extremely complicated, and she said disheartenedly, "There is no need to continue, we Sunagakure. Surrender." After speaking, Chiyo's body could not help but tremble a few times in a trance, as if being hit and unable to bear the result. But Chiyo's mother-in-law held back forcibly. Looking down at Chiyo, who seemed to be discouraged, she said that she surrendered and admitted defeat, and Orochimaru finally breathed a sigh of relief. In the end, Konoha village won the battle between Konoha and Sunagakure. Orochimaru was in a trance. This result, to be honest, even Orochimaru was a little surprised and unexpected. He believed that the battle with Sunagakure would definitely be in a stalemate. Without 10 days and a half months, there would be no result at all. 18. Now, led by Sunagakure's supreme leader, Chiyo, she has surrendered herself. Konoha wins. And this result, all this? In the battle with Sunagakure, the reason why Konoha won so quickly and so directly is the biggest contributor. Not the Konoha shinobi warriors who fought bravely to kill the enemy regardless of their lives on the battlefield. Orochimaru, one of the Konoha Sannin who is not in charge of the main battle, confronts Sunagakure's supreme leader, Chiyo Granny. It's not Senju Tsunade at Konoha base camp, but Uchiha Kyosuke. At this time, thinking of Kyosuke and thinking about this student, Orochimaru was filled with emotion. He originally thought that when Kyosuke followed him to the battlefield, he was at most selling his strength and playing soy sauce. Even Orochimaru was worried about Kyosuke's safety. After all, his current interests are tied to Uchiha Fugaku. But who would have thought that since Kyosuke entered the battlefield, the strength he has shown will directly make Orochimaru look at him, be amazed by it. Now, Kyosuke has single-handedly killed One-Tail Morizuru, completely reversing the battle between Konoha and Sunagakure. You know, that's the One-Tail Shukaku, who has reached a Kaga-level powerhouse. If Orochimaru is against that beast himself, even though he has the strength to restrain One-Tail Shukaku, it is not impossible to even defeat that beast. However, Orochimaru knew that he didn't have the strength to completely kill One-Tail Morizuru in such a short period of time. However, Kyosuke did it. I have to say, Orochimaru was really shocked when he learned that it was not Tsunade, but Kyosuke who killed the One-Tail Morizuru. Kyosuke-kun, I have to say, your growth rate is really far beyond my imagination. Orochimaru looked up in the direction where Kyosuke had dealt with One-Tail Morizuru before, sighing inwardly. What did we Sand Shinobi concede? Surrender? I don't believe it. How is this possible? Special code. Stop joking. Really, it was announced by Chiyo-sama. We Sunagakure have surrendered and conceded defeat. It was said by Chiyo-sama. Soon, the fact that Sunagakure surrendered and threw in the towel spread. The desperate fight between Konoha and Sunagakure gradually, CHFB, stopped. The ninjas of Sunagakure stopped to fight one after another, their hands drooping, their eyes showed despair and confusion. Surrender? After all, did they still lose? In this battle, they Sunagakure lost, completely. Unlike Sand Shinobi's despair, when he heard the news of Sunagakure's surrender, all Konoha shinobi people on the battlefield boiled. The battle with Sunagakure was won by their Konoha. After months of war on the border, finally, they Konoha won. Luo Sha, stop. You Sunagakure have already surrendered. Namikaze Minato, a flying thunder god technique, escaped Luo Sha's attack and said to Luo Sha, don't look at the fact that Luo Sha is still attacking Namikaze Minato frantically, but, in fact, he is almost at the end of the game. Now Luo Sha, Namikaze Minato can already be suppressed. And after hearing Namikaze Minato's words, Luo Sha's crazy face became more and more hideous. At this moment, Luo Sha clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. They Sunagakure had already chosen to surrender, and he already knew about it. But Luo Sha is very unwilling. In this battle with Konoha, they surrendered like this? His humiliation hasn't been washed away yet. So it's over? The damned Namikaze Minatos he hasn't finished yet. Also, that damned Uchiha Kyosuke, he's not done yet. How can you just surrender like this? He is not happy. No. How could Chiyo-sama surrender and admit defeat? It must be Konoha and their lies. Deceitful. It must be so. Thinking of this, Luo Sha's eyes were bloodshot, and he stared fiercely at Namikaze Minato in front of him. Stop chattering, Namikaze Minato. It's either you or I die today. Go to hell. After finishing speaking, the gold dust around Luo Sha gradually solidified and formed, and countless gold dust arrows were aimed at Namikaze Minato. Call out, call out, call out. A torrential rain of gold dust arrows flew towards Namikaze Minato. Seeing Luo Sha, who didn't admit that Sunagakure had surrendered and looked like a lunatic, Namikaze Minato couldn't help frowning. Just as the torrential rain of gold arrows dashed over, Namikaze Minato's figure disappeared out of thin air again. The next moment, Namikaze Minato quietly appeared behind Luo Sha, holding a Rasengan in his hand, and slapped Luo Sha's back fiercely. Rasengan, 9 boom. This unexpected attack by Namikaze Minato directly sent Luo Sha flying far away and fell to the ground, unconscious. The battle between Konoha and Sunagakure has come to an end. Chapter 137. Sunagakure surrendered, and Konoha won. This news, soon after, not only spread to Konoha base camp on the battlefield, but also the base camp of Sunagakure. Even, very quickly, the news gradually spread to various countries in the ninja world, in every ninja village. Konoha, 1 ground, bottom, root base. In the vast and dark hall, a figure was illuminated by the swaying flames, and the dark shadow was pulled to the ground. In the empty hall, there was no sound, and the silence was terrifying. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps coming from the door of the hall. A ninja wearing a root mask in the shape of a strange fox on one side came to the figure and knelt down. Lord Danzo, there is news from the front. Danzo stood upright in the hall with his back to the root ninja. Speak. The voice echoed in the empty hall, and it seemed a little weird. According to information from the frontier, Sunagakure has surrendered. When he heard the news, Danzo was surprised. His body couldn't help moving. He couldn't believe it. Sunagakure surrendered and conceded defeat. 99. Is this news reliable? It's not that Danzo suspects that the intelligence his subordinates have collected is true or false, but it seems that it has been a long time since Sarutobi Hiruzen convened the top management of Konoha and the major families to hold a Hokage meeting to discuss how to deal with this third ninja war. Danzo remembers that half a month ago, Tsunade led a group of ninjas in Konoha village to support the border of the country of fire and prepare to fight Sunagakure. It's been less than a month, and Sunagakure actually surrendered like this? Do you really think war is child's play? Play home? What's up? Therefore, Danzo had to be skeptical about the news. Hearing that his leader could not believe the authenticity of the information, the root ninja knelt on the ground and continued to explain. Lord Danzo, this news was sent back from the front line by our root ninja, so it is absolutely true and reliable. Danzo fell silent after hearing this from the root member. Since it was the news that their root members personally brought back on the battlefield, it must be true. However, Danzo still can't believe it. You must know that according to the previous Ninja World War, after the outbreak of the war between various countries, it is impossible to distinguish between winners and losers after 6 months, 1 year, or even 3 or 5 years. However, the battle between Konoha and Sunagakure was less than a month away, and Sunagakure surrendered and conceded defeat. Unusual. This is not normal. Could it be that Sunagakure is cheating? After Sunagakure deceived, and then took this opportunity to completely defeat them Konoha in one fell swoop? Danzo, who was in the dark, began to think about the dark, but when he thought that Orochimaru was dispatched to the Sunagakure battlefield, Danzo overturned his conjecture. Although Danzo and Orochimaru don't have much contact, and their relationship is very general. However, based on Danzo's knowledge of Orochimaru and Orochimaru's ability, Danzo is still very sure. Orochimaru is reliable and steady, but not quite as unsteady and rash as Tsunade and Jiraiya. Not to mention, there are Tsunade and Konoha Sannin on the battlefield of Sunagakure. Both are there. The more Danzo thought about it, the more vaguely he felt that something was wrong. Go on. I want to know the specifics of it. Danzo said so. The root ninja kneeling on the ground did not dare to say more, and immediately explained the reason why Sunagakure surrendered so quickly. Long before the battle with Sunagakure, Orochimaru-sama and Tsunade-sama had planned a sneak attack on Sunagakure's logistical force and dispatched Namikaze Minato and Uchiha Kyosuke to successfully burn Sunagakure's supplies, which caused Sunagakure to go to war early. After the war broke out, our Konoha was suddenly attacked by Sunagakure, and we were in a disadvantageous situation. Orochimaru-sama, Namikaze Minato, etc. were entangled by Sunagakure's Chiyo and Luo-sha, but Uchiha Kyosuke broke this situation. One-tail Morizuru sneaked behind Konoha. Uchiha Kyosuke successfully blocked and killed One-tail Morizuru, together with Jinchuriki. The root ninja kneeling behind Danzo spoke out, and the more Danzo listened, the more gloomy and dignified the expression on his face. From start to finish, one man's name gripped Danzo on his nerves. It was Uchiha Kyosuke who planned a sneak attack on the Sunagakure logistics force and burned the supplies that Sunagakure depended on to start the war. When the war broke out, it was Uchiha Kyosuke who slaughtered many sand shinobi and broke the war situation. At the end, Danzo heard One-tail Shikaku attacking the battlefield, and it was Uchiha Kyosuke who killed One-tail Shikaku with his own power. When he heard this, Danzo's mind was suddenly shocked. Uchiha Kyosuke? It is the evil clan in the village, the younger brother of the head of the Uchiha clan. Flowers that kid, Danzo remembered, wasn't Orochimaru's student. Now, has he grown to the point where he can kill the tailed beast? How can that be? You must know that kid Uchiha Kyosuke, but he is less than a year away from graduating from ninja school. How could he have grown to such a heaven-defying level in such a short period of time? Also, kill the One-tail Morizuru, One-tail Show Crane. You know, it's a tailed beast. Although it is a one-tail, it is also an extremely powerful tailed beast. Even Danzo himself is not sure he can beat One-tail. Are you sure the news is true? I don't know when. Danzo has turned around. He lowered his head and looked at the root member who was kneeling coldly.
Yes.
The root members agreed with Danzo affirmatively. Is Uchiha Kyosuke? In the empty hall, Danzo's low voice rang out. At this time, the dark aura on Danzo's body became more intense and a little more intense. He narrowed his eyes, and his face was gloomy. It seems that the old man has been ignoring that kid before. I didn't expect that the evil Uchiha clan would actually give birth to an extraordinary genius. This old man was wrong. You know, Uchiha Kyosuke is only 10 years old now, and already has the terrifying power to defeat the tail beast. This super pervert genius, even compared to the strongest of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Madara. I'm afraid it's not too much to let it go. Maybe even in the future, when Uchiha Kyosuke grows up, he will be even more terrifying than Uchiha Madara. Thinking of this at this moment, in Danzo's icy eyes, a cold murderous intent flashed. Uchiha Kyosuke, this son, must not stay. 35 Uchiha Kyosuke. He must be removed. The Uchiha family is an evil family. They must be wiped out. Uchiha Kyosuke, in that evil family, must also be evil. Master Tobirama, don't worry. If you can't fulfill your wish, the disciple will definitely fulfill it for you and completely get rid of the tumor of Konoha. 5 After all, everything this old man has done is for the sake of the village. In the great hall at the base of Konoha, Danzo's sinister eyes flashed. Perhaps it is necessary for him to have a good discussion with Sarutobi Hiruzen, his fellow apprentice and brother on the battlefield of Iwagakure. Chapter 138. Uchiha Tribe. The streets are still as lively as ever, with people coming and going, and a peaceful atmosphere. At the front entrance, Uchiha's fan sign gleams in the sun. The family of the Uchiha patriarch was silent and uninhabited. In the courtyard, only Zulu sags down and empties the water in the barrel after filling it with water, and then tilts his head to restore the original balance, and the tail hits the rock, making a crisp sound. During the Third Ninja War, Uchiha Fugaku, as the patriarch of the most powerful family in Konoha, was appointed by 3rd Hokage and dispatched to the battlefield of Kirigakure. Although Kirigakure chose to watch the fire from the other side, wandering outside the country of fire, the country of wind, the country of earth, and the Three Kingdoms War. However, Konoha had to be on guard, beware that Kirigakure would suddenly attack. You know, the land of water is just beyond the border of the land of fire. If Kirigakure really intervenes in the ninja war, Konoha will definitely bear the brunt. Mist Shinobi 470 Village Battlefield. The border of the land of fire is near the sea. The sea breeze with a slightly salty smell blew past the Konoha base camp, which was stationed here. In the station, Uchiha Fugaku looked at the vast sea in front of him. No one knew what he was thinking at this time. Now, at the border of the land of fire, Uchiha Fugaku has sent a lot of Konoha shinobi to follow. If there is any movement in Kirigakure, they Konoha can know for the first time. Patriarch, there is information. 35 At this time, a member of the Uchiha clan came to report. This time, many of the ninjas who followed Uchiha Fugaku to the Kirigakure battlefield were from the Uchiha clan. Huh, is Kirigakure finally holding back? Hearing the clansmen coming to report, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help frowning. No, it's information about Master Kyosuke. The Uchiha clan hurriedly explained. Kyosuke, his intelligence. Say it now. Uchiha Fugaku is not in a hurry if it is information about the Kirigakure attack. He is more or less prepared and can calm down. However, when he heard about Uchiha Kyosuke, Uchiha Fugaku felt restless. Kyosuke is his younger brother, and he is in the Sunigakure battlefield where the battle situation is anxious, so how can Uchiha Fugaku not worry? Seeing the clan leader like this, the Uchiha tribe didn't dare to delay much, and quickly reported the Sunigakure battlefield and the information about Uchiha Kyosuke. When Dao said it, the Uchiha tribe had a frenzy on his face. Patriarch on the battlefield, Master Kyosuke confronted one-tail Shikaku. Not only was he not weak at all, he even gave it to. Hearing that Konoha won in the Battle of Sunigakure, although Uchiha Fugaku was somewhat surprised, he didn't pay much attention. What he valued most was that Kyosuke actually killed one-tail Shikaku with his own power. One-tail Shikaku, a monster with Kage-level strength. Moreover, this time against Sunigakure, Konoha finally won, and Kyosuke played a big role in it. After hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku showed a shocking look on his face, but he was also very relieved. Kyosuke, I didn't expect you to grow to such a level. I'm really surprised. At this time, Uchiha Fugaku even had a feeling. He felt that it seemed like the right thing to do was to let Kyosuke go to battle. At this time, Uchiha Fugaku felt a lot more relaxed and relieved, and even looking at the large sea area in front of him felt a lot more pleasing to the eye. At the same time, the battlefield of the land. The 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who sits here, also received the report of Konoha's victory in the Sunigakure battlefield. What? Sunigakure, they surrendered? In the base camp, Saratobi Hiruzen was a little stunned when he heard the information reported by his subordinates. How long has it been? Sunagakure surrendered so quickly? This is simply incredible. In Saratobi Hiruzen's view, the battle situation at the Sunagakure battlefield was the most intense. It has not been a year and a half, and it is impossible to make any situation, not to mention the fact that Sunagakure had to surrender voluntarily. But this, it seems that the situation really exceeded Saratobi Hiruzen's expectations. Meanwhile, Saratobi Hiruzen's old face was somewhat relieved. Orochimaru and Steelhand, who are sitting there, they are still very reliable. His two outstanding disciples did not disappoint him. Konoha won the battle with Sunagakure, which made Saratobi Hiruzen very happy and took a few puffs from the pipe he picked up from time to time. However, next, when he heard his subordinates report the specific situation in the Sunagakure battlefield, the pipe in Saratobi Hiruzen's hand also stopped. Sand Shinobi attacked. Orochimaru restrained Chio. Tsunade was in the base camp. Under this stalemate, which was extremely unfavorable to Konoha, Uchiha Kyosuke stood up, slaughtered many Sand Shinobi, and led Konoha to slowly reverse the situation. One-tail Shikaku suddenly appeared. The battle is in chaos. Uchiha Kyosuke single-handedly killed the one-tail Shikaku. Hearing these reports, the joy on Saratobi Hiruzen's face gradually gathered back. At this time, Saratobi Hiruzen's mood became somewhat complicated. Even Saratobi Hiruzen was shocked when he heard that Uchiha Kyosuke had killed one-tail Morizuru by himself. Killed one-tail Shikaku. That Uchiha Kyosuke, after just a few months on the battlefield, has grown to the point where he has the strength not weaker than Kaga level. You know, that's Kaga level strength. He is only 10 years old now, and if Uchiha Kyosuke continues to grow up, 10 years later, 20 years later. Thinking of this, Saratobi Hiruzen couldn't help taking a breath. It stands to reason that Konoha won the Sunagakure battlefield, and a brilliant genius was born on this battlefield, and it is an unprecedented genius. This was the great news of the day. However, in the face of this good news, Saratobi Hiruzen did not have the good mood just now. Just because that amazing talent is Uchiha Kyosuke. That young man was a member of the Uchiha clan, and he was also the head of the Uchiha clan, the younger brother of Uchiha Fugaku. Moreover, according to the intelligence, it is not difficult for Saratobi Hiruzen to come up with a result that made him more complicated in 5.1. The reason why Sunagakure was able to surrender so quickly and admit defeat, a lot of credit has to go back to Uchiha Kyosuke. Even, it can be said unceremoniously that Uchiha Kyosuke is the key to turning the tide of the battle and forcing Sunagakure to surrender and admit defeat. Thinking of this, the pipe in Saratobi Hiruzen's hand is no longer fragrant, and I have no desire to put it up in my mouth for a long time. Saratobi Hiruzen hesitated for a moment, wondering if he had to do something. Now, the Uchiha family is in full swing in Konohamato. Now a great genius has been born. If the genius of the Uchiha clan continues to grow, the Uchiha clan might be the next Senju family. If it continues like this, Saratobi Hiruzen feels that Konoha's future will not be controlled by his Hokage. Chapter 139. Fire Country Frontier, Sunagakure Battlefield. Sunagakure has surrendered, and post-war negotiations between the two countries will follow. As a defeated country, the Land of Wind naturally paid the due price for the war. This time, the negotiation on the defeat of the Wind Nation was dominated by the mother-in-law Chio, and here in Konoha, it is naturally dominated by Orochimaru and Tsunade. After the war, Orochimaru and Tsunade were busy negotiating compensation after the war, as well as other aftermath work. And Kyosuke, since he was treated by Tsunade at that time, was quickly sent to Konoha base camp to recover. In the following days, Kyosuke rarely saw Tsunade. After the war, Tsunade was busy, and every time she checked Kyosuke's physical condition, she left in a hurry. Although Kyosuke was seriously injured, it was fortunate that he was treated by Tsunade in time. Therefore, for Kyosuke's post-mortem treatment, ordinary medical ninjas can also be competent. Therefore, for the past 27 days, Lin, who is a medical ninja, has become Kyosuke's personal nurse. In the past few days, Lin devoted herself to Kyosuke almost wholeheartedly. She took good care of her and didn't want to leave Kyosuke for a moment, for fear that Kyosuke would make a mistake. Thinking of Lin, thinking of this cute girl like an elf, Kyosuke's eyes flashed a little helplessness, and more, he was moved. Kyosuke clearly remembers that when he was brought back by Tsunade covered in blood, Rina's pear blossoms brought rain and cried into tears. To be honest, when Kyosuke saw Rin with tears in his eyes and rushed towards him with great worry, Kyosuke was touched. At that time, Kyosuke's heart was pulled hard. Only then did Kyosuke realize that, before he knew it, he had already become the most important person in Rin's life. Now, after a few days of training, Kyosuke's injuries have gradually recovered. Although the physical condition is not very good, but at least out of the serious injury state. In addition, the effect of the buff of the soul of Taishu in the system and the associated recovery power is 10 times that of ordinary people. Even Tsunade, who came to check Kyosuke's body in a hurry, couldn't help but stare at Kyosuke with strange eyes after finding out about Kyosuke's terrifying body repairability. This kid is really a monster. Konoha Base Camp, a special ward. Kyosuke, who was cultivating in bed, had nothing to do and couldn't get down and move around, so he had to turn on the system. Soon, the system interface appeared in Kyosuke's mind. Physiotherapy yyds system host. Uchiha Kyosuke abilities. 3 body technique, beginner. Konoha fluid technique, master. Paper arts, grandmaster. Iron body, grandmaster. Tempest kick, proficient. Water rock shattering fist, proficient. Armament haki, proficient. Shave, proficient. 8 inner gates, 5th gate. Gene lock tier 1, Wolf Fong Feng Fengquan, proficient. Eternal buff, soul of Taishu. Taishu's training income increases by 1000%. Mission point, 1888 points the current main quest. 3 battles to fame. Mission introduction. Host emerges in the 3 wars and becomes famous. Quest rewards, 10 quest points for every genin killed, 30 quest points for chunin, 100 quest points for jonin, and 500 quest points for Kaga level. At the end of the 3 battles, another reward will be given according to the degree of the host's famed daily tasks. 5,000 positive punches, 5,000 deep squats, and 50 kilograms to run 20 kilometers. Mission reward, 5 mission points. Although, these days, Kyosuke can only cultivate himself and cannot do daily tasks of the system. These dozens of mission points are a pity. However, after the battle with Sunagakure, Kyosuke's mission point has reached 1888. This time around, it can be said that Kyosuke made a huge profit and earned a quest point. Danger and opportunity coexist. Sure enough, you can only get rich overnight on the battlefield. Kyosuke knew that almost half of the 1888 mission points here were provided by One-Tail Shoha and the One-Tail Jinchuriki. Kyosuke remembers that when he killed One-Tail Morizuru and the others, the system prompted, hunt the One-Tail Show Crane to get 500 quest points. Kill Jinchuriki and get 300 quest points. Shoha Kaga level. Funfu used to be Kaga level, but old, dropped Kaga level. So, only 300 points. I have to say, this feeling of making a lot of money, Kyosuke can only describe it like this. Fair is cool. Ding. The system prompts. It is detected that the host task point exceeds 1,000 points. Do you choose to draw lottery? That's what it feels like. Kyosuke didn't hesitate. Direct draw. 99. Ding. The system has received it. The lottery starts. The lottery is in progress. The lottery is over. Ding. Congrats to host for obtaining the Taijutsu, Dance of the Sky. It is an extremely rare flying body art. Kyosuke is very happy. This wave made a profit. You know, among Hokage, there are not many ninjutsus that can fly. Rare. Kyosuke remembers that it seems that only the 3rd Tsuchikage of Iwagakure of the Land of Earth and the Earth-style light heavy rock technique of the old man Onogi can fly in the air. However, Onogi's Earth-style light heavy rock technique just changes its own gravity to achieve the effect of floating in the air. Therefore, it can only make people float in the air, but it is far from flying freely. As for other ninjutsu, although the 470 can achieve free flight, it requires the help of other external forces without exception. For example, Conan's paper dance, changing wings through paper. There is also Daidara's detonating clay, which can change various birds to carry people, and Rinnegan, which can use repulsion and gravitational forces, and universal pull, which enables users to gain flight ability. However, compared to Kyosuke's air dance, these flying ninjutsu are all weak. There is no comparison at all. After possessing the air dance, Kyosuke can be said to directly dominate the airspace of the ninja world. In the field of airspace, no one can challenge Kyosuke. Moreover, air dance can also be said to be a very good magic art for home travel. Kyosuke had been envious of Namake's Minato's flying thunder god technique before. That's it. It's really fragrant to have the air dance technique. Nice. At this moment, Kyosuke waved his fist with excitement on his face and couldn't help but cheer loudly. If it weren't for the physical injury, Kyosuke really wanted to experience the air dance. The scene of free and unrestrained soaring in the air. Kyosuke felt excited when he thought about it. At this time, There were soft footsteps outside the door. As the door opened, a light voice came. Kaido, what's the matter? So happy? Chapter 140. It was Lin who pushed in the door. After seeing this elf-like girl come in, Kaido calmed down the little joy in his heart and smiled at Lin. Lin, you are here. Didn't I tell you to go to rest? Why are you disobedient? Kaido frowned and said with a slightly reproachful tone. After all, since Kaido was seriously injured and sent back by Tsuna, Lin has been taking care of him meticulously for the past few days. Kaido felt very uncomfortable seeing Rin's haggard face because of taking care of herself. But no matter how Kaido persuaded, this little girl was stubborn, and she took care of Kaido all by herself. This little girl really made Kaido both angry and moved. If it wasn't for Kaido's tough attitude to let Rin take a good rest yesterday, it is estimated that Rin's condition is very bad now. Kaido-kun, don't worry, I'll be fine after I rest. 35. Although Kaido spoke to Rin in a reproachful tone, Rin's heart felt sweet and warm after hearing it. Kaido-kun is really considerate. After Lin explained, she couldn't help but jump towards Kaido, who was lying on the bed. Seeing Rin, whose face was ruddy and lustrous again, Kaido nodded inwardly. It seems that after yesterday's rest, the little girl has recovered a lot. Lin's complexion is obviously much better than the previous days. However, Kaido had a serious face at this time, and he nodded seriously to Rin, who came forward. Let me see. But Lin's face looks much better. Hee, I said yes. Lin smiled at Kaido, and that smile, like a ray of sunshine, warmed into the deepest part of her heart. But Kaido's face was straight. He paused and said, this is just a superficial phenomenon. As for whether you have really recovered, Lin, I think you still need to check it carefully. Kaido looked at Rin in front of him. His expression was very serious, and he didn't look fake at all. An examination? Lin was a little stunned. How to check? She is the most aware of her own physical state. Although a few days ago, she almost devoted herself to taking care of Kaido, and she was physically and mentally exhausted. However, after a full rest yesterday, she really recovered a lot. At least in good condition, there is no problem. Looking at Rin, who looked a little dazed and looked very cute, Kaido nodded. That's right. I'm going to check to see if you're really resting, Lin. After saying that, Kaido waved to Rin, who was not far away from his eyes. Lin, come here. Now, Kaido, who is out of serious injury, can still move basic body movements. However, if you want to get up, or even get out of bed to move around, it is impossible without training for 10 days and a half months. Kaido's remarks just now made Lin in a dazed state. Now, hearing Kaido calling her, Rin just walked up to Kaido in a confused way. Kaido what he was going to do, Rin didn't know. However, Rin knew that Kaido would definitely not hurt her. Even if Kaido hurt her, in Lin's heart, she would definitely forgive Kaido. Kaido-kun, you just said? Rin, who was a little confused, walked up to Kaido and was about to speak, but Kaido's actions interrupted her. I saw that Kaido grabbed Rin's little hand without any hesitation. The starting tape is soft, warm, and a little meaty. Kaido grabbed Rin's little hand, and it felt good. However, Kaido acted very seriously. After pinching Rin's little hands a few times, he said seriously, well, my little hands have flesh, and I'm not as thin as I was a few days ago. It seems that after resting, Lin has recovered a lot. Kaido, this is completely bullshit, nonsense. Although Lin has been taking care of Kaido with all her heart these days, she is also quite haggard. But no matter how thin a person is, there will be no obvious changes in just a few days. What's more, it's even less obvious when it's still in hand. The little hand was suddenly caught by Kaido. A faint blush appeared on Lin's face immediately. At this time, Lin looked a little embarrassed and showed some discomfort. In particular, she felt Kaido grabbed her little hand and kept holding it. Lin couldn't take it anymore. Looking at the coy Rin in front of him, Kaido continued to hold Rin's little hand with a calm expression. What's up, Lin? Are you feeling unwell? That's not good. It seems that you need to pay more attention to your body and rest well. Kaido held Rin's little hand and said seriously to Rin, Lin? Although Kaido did this to Rin, making Rin a little shy. However, Rin, who had already made up her mind for a long time, did not break free, and the little hand continued to let Kaido catch it. Although Rin was a little shy about Kaido's actions, she could still bear it. However, Kaido couldn't stop playing with her little hands, and the blush on Lin's face gradually became more intense. It looked so cute. These days, Kaido was lying in bed doing nothing, and he couldn't get out of bed to move around, so he was very bored. At this time, he finally had the opportunity to tease Lin. How could he let it go so easily? As soon as possible, Kyosuke was no longer satisfied with holding Rin's soft little hands. Looking at the blush on Lin's face, he couldn't help but move in his heart. Then, Kyosuke looked at Rin and said with concern, "Is Zhao's, Lin, what's wrong with you? Why is your face so red? Do you have a fever?" 55 This can't be done, Lin. Didn't I tell you to take a good rest? You were like this. Let me see. Kyosuke showed some heartache on his face, and then he pulled Rin. Then he raised his other hand, and without going through Lin's approval, he directly covered the hand on Lin's forehead. Started a warm, obviously a little hot. "Lin, you are sick and have a fever." Kyosuke frowned. Kyosuke's hand covered Lin's forehead unpredictably, and before Lin could react, she heard Kyosuke say she had a fever. Lin's own physical condition, she still doesn't know. The state of fever will be dizziness, fatigue, chills, and abdominal pain. Now, at most, she is a little dizzy. However, it was caused by Kyosuke. Chapter 141. Lin, why are you so disobedient? Didn't you say that you should have a good rest earlier? Look at you, you are sick now. Kyosuke looked at Rin with a serious expression on his face and said, "Lin, why are you so disobedient? It makes me very worried." At this moment, Kyosuke's expression was as realistic as possible. Sure enough, after seeing Lin, she panicked. No, Kyosuke-kun. I'm not sick, it's all. Having said that, Lin was rather hesitant. She couldn't let Lin herself say that her face turned red and hot because of shyness, and it wasn't some kind of fever, right? However, as a girl, how could Lin explain like this? In the end, Rin, who didn't know what to say, had to hold Kyosuke's hand tightly with both hands, unable to speak for a moment. Seeing Rin like this, Kyosuke knew it was enough. After all, it's still fun to make fun of Lin. Especially seeing her shy appearance, it is very seductive. Then, without waiting to grab Kyosuke's hand, Rin, who was speechless, wanted to explain something, but Kyosuke raised his hand and took Rin into his arms. After being caught off guard, Lin Jiao let out a cry and then fell directly into Kyosuke's embrace. 473 Kyosuke. Before waiting for the suave Lin to say anything, Kyosuke hugged Lin, the elf-like girl, and said softly in her ear, "Lin, thank you for taking care of you these days. It's hard work." Hearing Kyosuke say so softly, how could Lin still not know? It was Kyosuke who was playing tricks on her before. "Kyosuke-kun, you are so annoying." After Lin Jiao fell into Kyosuke's arms, she couldn't help but slapped Kyosuke's chest with a small fist. At the beginning, Lin still had some effort. However, after a few hits, Lin's movements became lighter, and finally, she was almost stroking. Feeling the warmth of Kyosuke's broad embrace, Rin also let go of her shyness and slowly opened her arms to embrace Kyosuke. The two just hugged each other, feeling each other's heartbeats, and didn't speak. For a while, the room was very quiet. I don't know how long it took. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. "Kakashi, didn't I say, you have to go by yourself, don't call me." 99 Outside the door, Obito said with some dissatisfaction. "Obito, why did CHFB say that Kyosuke is our comrade? Besides, thanks to Kyosuke who defeated One-Tail Shikaku on the battlefield, we were able to escape." At the same time, Kakashi's voice rang out, as if persuading Obito to come. Cut. I didn't let Kyosuke save him at that time. Obito was a little disdainful and was very stubborn. From Obito's point of view, he and Kyosuke are completely impossible to stand together. Forehead, Kakashi looked at the reluctant Obito in front of him, and for a moment he was a little confused. Obito and Kyosuke were at odds, and he knew it. This time Kakashi offered to visit Kyosuke, and Obito was also forced to come over. From Kakashi's point of view, they all have to see Kyosuke's. However, he did not expect that Obito would have such a deep prejudice against Kyosuke. Okay, but Obito, presumably Lin might be there. Don't you want to see her? In desperation, Kakashi had to release a big move and move Lin out. Kakashi knew how much Rin's partner held in Obito's heart. If Kakashi hadn't accidentally found out that Rin had been taking care of Kyosuke these days, even he had never seen Rin. This time he and Obito came to visit Kyosuke, and there was a good chance that they would meet Rin. Sure enough, when Kakashi mentioned Rin, Obito's reluctant expression disappeared instantly. Speaking of which, although Sunagakure surrendered and the battle stopped, there was still a lot to do after the war. In the past few days, Obito has been assigned a lot of tasks, busy dealing with things, and has never seen Lin at all. So, Obito also wanted to see Lin. Even if you don't talk to Lin, just take a look. Lin is here too? Really? You didn't lie to me? Although, Obito wondered why Kakashi was so sure about Rin here. However, when he thought about the relationship between Rin and Kyosuke, he was not surprised. However, knowing that he knew, Obito felt unhappy when he heard it. That guy Uchiha Kyosuke is already injured like that. How can he fix it if he goes to provoke Rin? Although Kakashi succeeded in attracting Obito, Obito still has some doubts. Kakashi was speechless. Why am I lying to you? Then, Kakashi went on to explain. Kyosuke has been taken care of by Rin these days. So, let's go and come in with me. 99 After that, Kakashi came to this special ward in Kyosuke and knocked on the door. Kyosuke, Obito and I are here to see you. 35 Since the door was ajar, the knock was just a polite reminder of the process. Besides, in Kyosuke's current situation, it is impossible to get out of bed and open the door. Then, Kakashi opened the door directly. Obito, who was behind Kakashi, was obviously stunned when he thought of what Kakashi said just now. These days, Kyosuke is being taken care of by Rin. These days, Kyosuke is being looked after by Rin. These days, Kyosuke is being looked after by Rin. These words kept echoing in Obito's mind. At this time, Obito woke up. It turns out that the reason why he hasn't seen Rinher in the past few days is because Rin has been taking care of Uchiha Kyosuke. Before, Obito naively thought that Lin, like him, was busy with things after the war. In particular, after the war, there were many injured people in Konoha, and medical ninjas like Rin were more busy than others. But who knows? These days, Rin has been taking care of Kyosuke. Hehe, I'm so stupid. Obito froze in place, looking like it was broken, but Kakashi in front of Obito didn't notice this reaction. On the contrary, Kakashi is a little embarrassed now. I saw, after Kakashi opened the door, what he saw. The seriously injured member Kyosuke, who had been recovering from the bed, was now holding Rin in his arms. And Rin, also very obediently snuggled up and hugged Kyosuke. This scene, Kakashi was very embarrassed when he saw it. The dog food all over the sky sprinkled directly on Kakashi's head and stuffed his mouth. Chapter 142. Well, it seems that I came at a bad time. Kakashi, wearing a black mask, was at the door, not walking. And at this time, Lin also suddenly woke up. Just now, she snuggled up in Kyosuke's warm embrace, craving for a moment, but ignored the knock on the door. Now, Kakashi's words directly woke the little girl up. Lin's first reaction was ashamed. She actually acted so intimately with Kyosuke in front of outsiders. This scene made the thin-skinned Lin Qing feel embarrassed. What? Lin let out a cry, and then she quickly broke free from Kyosuke's embrace and quickly got up. At the door were her companion Kakashi and Obito behind. When she was so close to Kyosuke, she was bumped into by the companions she got along with day and night, and Lin only felt that her face was dry. Kakashi, and Obito, are you here to see Kyosuke? However, Lin is also a girl who knows the whole thing. After the embarrassing scene that she was bumped into just now, Rin quickly adjusted her emotions and said to Kakashi and the others with a smile. Lin's reaction made Kakashi even more uncomfortable. After all, Rin and Kyosuke, who were the two of them, were bumped into by an outsider like him, and it was his fault after all. Sorry, it was my fault just now for disturbing you. Kakashi apologized very seriously. Lin shook her head and smiled, indicating that she should not care. However, the blush on Lin's face turned even redder. Since Lindu said he didn't need to care, Kakashi was relieved, so he turned his head and said to Obito behind him, Obito, what are you still doing? Didn't you say you want to come and see Kyosuke, but you came in? However, Kakashi saw Obito behind him. His body stiffened and his eyes wide, full of shock and disbelief. You must know that Obito could clearly see the scene of the intimate contact between Rin and Kyosuke just now. Rin. She actually threw herself into Uchiha Kyosuke's arms. This scene, the shock to Obito, is really too big. This scene is like 9 days of thunder, directly smashing Obito to the ground. It also seemed to be a blow to the head, and Obito was hit hard and woke up. At this time, Obito had to believe a fact. It turned out that Lin was not threatened by Uchiha Kyosuke, but she took the initiative and was willing to do all this. Hehe, I'm so stupid. At this moment, Obito just stood there stiffly and dumbfounded, and the blush on Lin's little face was like an incomparably sharp blade that stabbed into his heart ruthlessly. Obito, what are you still doing there foolishly? Come in. Seeing Obito's appearance, Kakashi couldn't help reminding him. And after Kakashi's reminder, Obito was also awakened. Obito gave Lin a very complicated look on his face, and then he turned his head and rushed out the door. Soon, Obito disappeared from the sight of Kakashi and others. Obito, Obito, what are you doing? Come back. Kakashi is puzzled by Obito's strange behavior, but he knows a little bit about it. However, no matter what he called Obito, it was useless. Helpless, after Kakashi sighed, he had to let Obito leave. Although, he had expected the scene when Obito met Rin. However, he was far from expecting that he and Obito bumped into Kyosuke and Rin's good things. Thinking of this, Kakashi is speechless, as if there are countless noisy crows flying over his head. Obito, what's the matter? Didn't he say he wanted to see Kyosuke? At this time, Lin was very strange and puzzled that Obito came and left in a hurry. She really didn't know Yillin's temperament. But Kakashi knew why, but he wouldn't explain it as stupidly as Obito. So, Kakashi had to find an excuse. Oh, Obito just realized that the things that Mr. Minato told him has not been completed, so he hurried back. It's okay, Lin. Don't worry about it. 95, so this is Although Rin was skeptical about Kakashi's explanation, Rin didn't take it to heart. Ask for flowers. After all, other than Kyosuke's affairs, Rin didn't care much about others. It's Kakashi here, Kyosuke said. When Kakashi heard Kyosuke's words, he put Obito aside. After all, the purpose of his visit this time was to visit Kyosuke. The Obito thing can only be said to be an accident. Kyosuke-kun, how are you? Are you better? Looking at Kyosuke lying on the bed in the room, Kakashi said with a bit of concern on his face. Although Kakashi and Kyosuke are not very familiar. However, Kyosuke, who is about the same age as him, still admires Kakashi to some extent. It is said that Kyosuke killed the one-tail Morizuru by himself, and he has completely convinced Kakashi, who has always been very arrogant. Thank you, it's much better. Kyosuke, who was lying on the bed, responded. To be honest, Kyosuke was a little surprised that Kakashi was able to visit him. After all, in Kyosuke's view, Kakashi doesn't communicate much with him, and the relationship is just average. As for Obito's reaction just now, to be honest, the current Kyosuke didn't take him seriously at all. This is necessary. Kakashi shook his head, and then he continued, speaking of which, I would also like to thank you. That time you blocked the one-tail Morizuru and saved me and Obito. Kakashi's words made Kyosuke a little confused. As soon as possible, Kyosuke responded. At that time, you and Obito were there? 35 During the battle with Tsunagakure, Kyosuke confronted one-tail Morizuru, and he really didn't notice that Kakashi and Obito were actually there. Speaking of which, it was a mistake to help them. Then, Kyosuke didn't pay much attention to it. This is what it should be. After all, they are all from the same village. After all, they are companions. 35 Lin, who was on the side, watched Kyosuke quietly after hearing this, and the sky was full of stars flashing in her moist and beautiful eyes. Looking at Kyosuke, who didn't care, Kakashi's admiration grew even more. Only by being in it, and seeing with your own eyes how Kyosuke killed one-tail Morizuru, can you know how powerful Kyosuke is? Chapter 143. After staying here for a while, Kakashi got up and left. He always felt that among Kyosuke and Rin, he was a superfluous existence. This made him very uncomfortable. After Kakashi left, only Rin and Kyosuke were left in the room. This is the world of two people. As usual, Lin first carefully checked Kyosuke's physical condition to see if there was any abnormality, and then took care of other aspects of Kyosuke. However, Kyosuke didn't want to make Lin tired. Under his urging, Lin was reluctantly driven back to rest by Kyosuke, silent all night. The next day, early in the morning, Kyosuke, who was squinting and sleepy, heard the door open. This movement made the sleepy Kyosuke wake up quite a bit. Who was this who came to him so early? Lin, that stupid girl? 50 Impossible. After Kyosuke's severe criticism and education, Lin didn't dare to come so early. As for the enemy's sneak attack, who dares to come from this Konoha base camp? Not to mention that Kyosuke is a special ward, and Kyosuke is Konoha's top genius. Konoha's key protection object, the protection measures here are quite strict. Besides, Kyosuke didn't notice any ill will. This made Kyosuke feel relieved. After the man came in, he didn't do anything, just stood quietly beside Kyosuke's bed. That's weird. Kyosuke wanted to see who would dare to disturb his sweet dreams by not staying in bed this morning. So, Kyosuke continued to close his eyes and pretend to sleep. Then he turned his sleeping position naturally, adjusted the angle, and narrowed his eyes slightly. The first thing that catches Kyosuke's eyes is not the woman Tsunade. Who else? In the early morning, I didn't stay with you to sleep well, and ran into my room like a thief. Kyosuke, who was able to react, said angrily to Tsunade, who was standing beside the bed. If my friends find out, maybe they will think we did something last night. Kyosuke jokingly looked at Tsunade so quietly. At the same time, Kyosuke sighed in his heart. Thanks to you, Tsunade. Your style is so unexpected. Your friend. It's that little girl Lin who has been busy serving and taking care of you these days. Tsunade, who was standing beside Kyosuke's bed, looked down at Kyosuke with a malicious smile on his face. Okay, that's just right. Let that little girl Lin see how the person she likes bullies the old lady. 5 Tsunade said it all. Kyosuke was immediately speechless and simply pretended not to answer. What? Nothing to say? Che, you little brat. You dare to jump like this before your injuries are healed. To provoke the old lady? Forgetting so quickly, how did I teach you a lesson? Old lady. 35 Tsunade narrowed his eyes, pinched his waist, and walked to Kyosuke's bed, his words threatening. At this time, Tsunade pulled her face very close to Kyosuke. Tsunade was watching him carefully and said to himself, Che, there's nothing special about this kid besides being a little more handsome, but why can he kill one-tail Shikaku by himself? Moreover, what happened to his body? How pervert the recovery state? You know, when Tsunade first started treating Kyosuke, Kyosuke's whole body was terrible. But after just a few days of cultivation, his physical function was rejuvenated with an incomparably tyrannical vitality. If we continue with Kyosuke's recovery ability, presumably, within 10 days and a half months, he will fully recover. Could it be that the physical recovery of the Uchiha clan is so pervert? Still, does this have something to do with what Kyosuke said before, that mysterious potion? As a medical ninja, Tsunade is very curious about the secrets of Kyosuke. Gudu. In the morning, in Kyosuke's room, his swallowing voice could be heard clearly. Can't really blame him. To say, all of this is Tsunade's fault. Yes, it was her fault. Tsunade just been over, so close to him. The mountains and rivers are so beautiful, and the scenery of the mountains and rivers is so beautiful that he can see them all at a glance. TSK. Kyosuke has a lot of experience in his previous life though. But, in certain aspects, Kyosuke is willing to call Tsunade the strongest. Boy, how is it? Does it look good? Tsunade's words came to Kyosuke's ears. It's not bad, cough. As soon as he followed, Kyosuke immediately woke up. What the hell is this? Not bad. So, Kyosuke coughed a few times trying to make up for it. Tsunade-san, what did you just say? What is good looking? Kyosuke pretended to be stunned and looked at Tsunade's pretty face leaning over and approaching, with a puzzled look in his eyes. Tsunade? Seeing Kyosuke's expression in front of him, Tsunade wanted to hold him down and suffocate him alive. Tsunade, come to me so early, what are you looking for? Kyosuke calmed down, with a serious expression on his face. After all, Tsunade, although she does things carelessly, is still somewhat measured. It's impossible to harass Kyosuke this morning. Coming here so early, something must have happened. Seeing Kyosuke's serious face, Tsunade only felt that he slammed his fist into a ball of cotton. It's that feeling again. Every time she finds fault with Kyosuke, somehow, it happens. That feeling made Tsunade feel extremely uncomfortable. However, she was unable to refute Kyosuke. What a damn feeling. Tsunade against Kyosuke was suppressed. So Tsunade had to take a slow breath and try to adjust his breathing. Suddenly, on the top of the snow peak, Avalanche 5.1 came, and countless snow-white snows appeared and fell. After a while, Tsunade calmed down and said, negotiations at Sunagakure have ended. 35 Upon hearing this, Kyosuke nodded. The reason why Tsunade rarely appears in front of Kyosuke these days is because he is busy with these things. In this war, Sunagakure, as the leader who took the initiative to provoke the right and wrong of the war, must pay a corresponding heavy price. To cede land, pay indemnity, and sign various other unequal treaties with Konoha. It can be said that this time Sunagakure really lost his wife and lost his army. The disappearance of the third Kazekage has not yet been found out, and the battle with Konoha was lost again, and a series of humiliating treaties were signed. It's a bad luck. However, this is also considered Sunagakure to eat their own fruit. Chapter 144. At this time, Kyosuke fixed his eyes on Tsunade in front of him, I think you should be talking about more than this. Tsunade did not refute after hearing this, and nodded slightly. There are also appointments from the village. Since the war here is over, we will leave here soon. When Kyosuke heard this, he looked a little stunned. The battle between Konoha and Sunagakure is over, and the post-war negotiations have been settled, so Tsunade, as one of Konoha's Sannin, really shouldn't stay here. Moreover, the Ninja World War is now in a state of anxiety. Although the battle on Sunagakure's side has ended smoothly, it does not mean that the other battles are also smooth. The battlefield on the frontier of Rock Shinobi, as well as the battlefield on the frontier of Cloud Shinobi, can be equally anxious. It can be said that the battle between Konoha and Sunagakure, Kyosuke, is the unknown of this battle. It is precisely because of Kyosuke that this battle Konoha can be won so smoothly. But, on the other side of the village, the appointment was too quick. You know, the war is over, but the post-war work is also very troublesome. Tsunade, as one of the 27 commanders of the Konoha battlefield, also spent a certain amount of time to rectify. Therefore, as soon as Tsunade said this, Kyosuke immediately smelled a trace of conspiracy from it. Yes, it is the taste of conspiracy, and there's a good chance it's not that simple. Kyosuke didn't have to think too much to guess that the reason why this appointment was reached so quickly was that there was no such thing as the third Hokage, Danzo, and the elders and other Hokage factions. Kyosuke himself just hit the tofu in the head and died. However, Kyosuke was a little curious about the appointment issued by the village. He would like to see. Third-generation Danzo and the rest of them are preparing the land again. Sister Tsunade, are you leaving? 35. Although Kyosuke had already prepared, but when he heard that Tsunade was going to be transferred, he was still a little reluctant. Where to call? During this time, although Tsunade always showed his fierceness towards Kyosuke, he would fight him if he didn't agree. Although Tsunade didn't take much advantage of her. Seriously though, Kyosuke really liked her honesty and honesty. Also, when Kyosuke was seriously injured before, Kyosuke was killed by Tsunade, and Kyosuke has not yet avenged this great revenge. If Tsunade left, he would have to let Kyosuke take his revenge first. However, what Tsunade said next made Kyosuke stunned. Actually, it doesn't matter where to go, just go back to the village. Having said this, Tsunade just couldn't help stretching his body, which was very scary. But that's fine. You know, I won't be able to play any role on the battlefield. 5. Just in time. I am also happy to go back to the village to rest. After speaking, Tsunade's face showed a somewhat relaxed look. It looks like Tsunade is happy with the appointment in the village. Seeing Tsunade's expression like this made Kyosuke in bed look a little weird. This woman Tsunade. Wouldn't you want to take this opportunity to leave Konoha village and wander the ninja world? Hey, kid, what's your expression like? Coincidentally, Kyosuke's strange expression was caught by Tsunade, so Tsunade glared at Kyosuke with her arms wrapped around her, a little unhappy. Tsunade. She only felt that the look Kyosuke looked at her was full of malice. Oh, so you are returning to the village. Nyan Kyosuke seemed to have just reacted, then looked at Tsunade with admiration. You guys are really enviable. You can go back to the village and stay in the village without going on the battlefield. 5. All I can say is, Tsunade, it really belongs to you. As for Tsunade, one of the Konoha Sannin, why this main force was transferred back to the village, Kyosuke knows to some extent. It's not hard to guess. Tsunade's hyperphobia, third generation, should be the clearest. The reason why Tsunade was sent to the Sand Shinobi battlefield this time was to deter him. The battlefield here is over, so Tsunade's mission is naturally completed. If Tsunade continues to be on the battlefield, she won't be able to play her powerful role on the battlefield at all. Instead, it will backfire. Therefore, it is understandable that Tsunade was transferred back to the village. Only, at this time, Kyosuke felt a little funny at the appointment made by the Hokage faction. It's true that Tsunade suffers from hyperphobia, but that was before. Now, Kyosuke was sure that Tsunade's hyperphobia was 100% healed. You know, when Kyosuke was seriously injured at that time, his whole body was covered in blood, and the injury was terrifying. Tsunade treated Kyosuke without blinking or trembling. At that time, Kyosuke also wondered how Tsunade was not afraid of blood. So, Kyosuke was amused by the Hokage faction's appointment to bring Tsunade back to the village. The Ninja World War is in full swing, and Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and even Sarutobi Hiruzen are fighting in person and working hard for it. But the Hokage faction gave Tsunade a holiday for nothing, leaving Tsunade to have nothing to do. What's more, what makes Kyosuke speechless is that the woman Tsunade did not explain the appointment, She 500 agreed so smoothly. This, I have to say, Tsunade is an amazing woman. Kyosuke didn't even know what to say about her. Kyosuke's words were joking, and Tsunade could feel it. However, Tsunade didn't refute. She just gave Kyosuke a blank look and let him experience it for himself. Kyosuke, by the way, the appointment in the village this time is not only mine, but also yours. At this time, Tsunade said suddenly. Of course, there is also your teacher, Orochimaru. Tsunade added. There is also my teacher Orochimaru's? Kyosuke. He only felt a little crow flying behind his forehead. I also have it? Although Kyosuke was a little surprised, he was also somewhat prepared. Tsunade nodded, looking at Kyosuke lying on the bed. Her pretty face showed a rare seriousness. Yes, the appointment letter sent from the village not only mentioned that I should go back to the village, but Orochimaru was going to be transferred to the rock shinobi border to assist the teacher. 99 Looking at Kyosuke, Tsunade paused and continued. Also, the appointment letter specifically mentions that you will follow Namake's Minato to the Cloud Shinobi border to assist Jiraiya. 35 Hearing the news, Kyosuke couldn't help frowning. Konoha's appointment letter is very meaningful. Chapter 145. Originally, Kyosuke was Orochimaru's student, and if Orochimaru was transferred to the rock shinobi border, Kyosuke would naturally follow Orochimaru. But the top management of Konoha deliberately asked Kyosuke to follow Namake's Minato to the Cloud Shinobi border. Here, it is very interesting. No need to think about it, Kyosuke knew that this must have been the work of Third Hokage and Danzo. After all, Kyosuke's performance in this battle with Sunagakure was too conspicuous. Defeat one-tail Shikaku and his Jinchuriki all by himself, hunt down countless sand shinobi, and turn the tide of battle. All that Kyosuke did was like a thunderbolt, which directly shocked many high-level officials of Konoha. The wood is beautiful in the forest, and the wind will destroy it. Today, the power of the Uchiha clan in Konoha village is at its peak. At this time, another Uchiha Kyosuke appeared in the Uchiha family, this amazing genius. How can the Hokage faction headed by Third Hokage and Danzo be willing to let the Uchiha clan continue to prosper? Therefore, this appointment can be said to be aimed at Kyosuke, which is very obvious. Kyosuke, the party concerned, can clearly see that this appointment in the village means confrontation. Then, as the eldest princess of the Senju family, Senju Tsunade, one of the 3 Konoha family members, can naturally see that her sense of political affairs is also extremely keen. When Tsunade received this appointment, her first feeling was a strong sense of pertinence. Strong focus on Kyosuke. The appointment letter clearly states that the situation at the Cloud Shinobi border on the Jiraiya side is not optimistic, and it is requested that Uchiha Kyosuke and Namake's Minato be sent to support immediately without delay. Among them, Kyosuke was seriously injured at the moment without any consideration. Whether it was Konoha's senior management who ignored it, or whether there are other reasons, is unknown. As for why it was so directed against Kyosuke, Tsunade knew the reason. Although, she usually pays little attention to the affairs of the village, and she has no intention to pay attention to it. However, this does not mean that she is stupid and ignorant of the things in the village. In any case, she is a student of Third Hokage, and invisibly belongs to the Hokage faction. Tsunade knows the conflict between the Hokage faction and the Uchiha clan. Therefore, when Tsunade noticed the reason, she felt inexplicably uncomfortable and deeply disappointed for the first time. Disappointment for the village. And there is anger. That's right, it's anger. In the battle between Konoha and Sunagakure, how much sacrifice Kyosuke made in it. Tsunade saw all of this. It can be said that without Kyosuke, Konoha would not have been able to make Sunagakure surrender so quickly in this battle with Sunagakure. Even if Konoha wins in the end, it is bound to pay a very heavy price. But it is the hero of this Konoha village, this amazing genius, the so-called high-level officials of Konoha, but they are still thinking about how to suppress or even destroy them all the time. These actions of the high-level Konoha make Tsunade only feel chills. And, for Kyosuke, Tsunade she felt inexplicably distressed. That's why the village complied with Tsunade's appointment without giving any explanation. And why did Tsunade come to Kyosuke so early last night when he was appointed? Seeing that Kyosuke only frowned upon hearing the news, as expected, Tsunade couldn't help but feel a little weird. You don't seem to be surprised by this appointment, Doc? What's weird? Kyosuke shrugged and said indifferently, those high-level corpses in the village are thinking about something, and I don't even bother to break them down. Hearing Kyosuke's words, Tsunade couldn't help but glance at Kyosuke. Tsunade is amazing. She didn't expect that Kyosuke could see the unusualness of this appointment. Only then did Tsunade realize that for Kyosuke, it is impossible to judge him by his age. This little guy is simply a monster, a human being. By the way, when are you going to leave for the village? Kyosuke asked Tsunade. Kyosuke doesn't intend to continue to ramble on this issue. It's boring. Just a few days. In fact, Tsunade can go directly back to the village now. After all, now that the negotiations between Konoha and Sunagakure are over, things here at Konoha Base Camp, the aftermath work Orochimaru can do alone. However, Tsunade felt that when she returned to the village by herself, she had nothing to do and lacked interest. Now that she's here, she can tease Kyosuke from time to time. It's much more interesting. As for Kyosuke, he didn't think much about it. But if Kyosuke knew that Tsunade wasn't busy going back to the village because he was here to tease him, he would have to take care of the woman. Kyosuke thought for a moment, and after a while, he looked at Tsunade in front of him. Can you please do one thing? What? Tsunade stared at Kyosuke with a wary expression, as if to be wary of him coming. Kyosuke's forehead went black. Then, he said angrily, don't worry, I won't bother you too much. On the contrary, this is a trivial matter that can't be easier for you. You talk about it first. Gunt didn't immediately agree to Kyosuke. Kyosuke was also speechless. Next, Kyosuke spoke about it. Lin, you know that girl. When you go back to the village, I want you to bring her back. After the battle with Sunagakure, Kyosuke realizes the cruelty of war more and more. He was very concerned about Lin's safety. Besides, Lin, as a medical ninja, has very limited strength, and Kyosuke is still very worried about her mistakes on the battlefield. Although after this war, Kyosuke's strength has risen sharply and has been further improved. With his care, Lin will basically have no problems. But don't be afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of what happens. As for Rin's companions, Kakashi and Obito, Kyosuke doesn't want to worry too much. You can die wherever you like. What does it have to do with him? Oh, it looks like you are very kind. 5 Seeing that this was what Kyosuke had brought up, Tsunade sneered. Kyosuke, a black line runs across Kyosuke's forehead. No problem. No matter how you say that girl is your little girlfriend, don't worry. Tsunade patted his chest and agreed. This shot of Tsunade made Kyosuke's heart skip a beat. But Kyosuke nodded. That way he was relieved. When the time comes to go to the Cloud Shinobi border with Namikaze Minato and the others, Kyosuke can let go of his hands and feet without any worries. After all, if there is a war, let Kyosuke go, and Rin will just stay in the village and wait for him to come back. Thinking of this, Kyosuke subconsciously thought of another girl. The girl with fiery red sparkling jewel-like eyes. I don't know where the red is now, and what's going on. Okay, everything that needs to be said has been said. Next, let me check how your physical condition is recovering. Tsunade told Kyosuke everything he wanted to explain, and he stepped forward to check Kyosuke's physical condition. Oh, Kyosuke responded. No matter how busy Tsunade is these days, he always comes to check Kyosuke's health once a day. However, this time she came very early. Kyosuke almost forgot that he had talked so much with Tsunade just now. As usual, after following the inspection procedure in the past, Tsunade didn't find anything wrong with Kyosuke's physical condition, but recovered surprisingly well. Your body is recovering pretty well, and if it goes on like this, you will be completely healed in less than 10 days and a half months. Thank you, Tsunade-san. You've worked hard these days. Kyosuke sincerely thanked Tsunade. Chapter 146. Kyosuke has seen everything Tsunade has done to Kyosuke these days. Although he is busy every day, Tsunade takes the time to check Kyosuke's health. This thank you, Kyosuke, is sincere. However, in Tsunade's eyes, this is an inexplicable feeling of disobedience. So, Tsunade looked at Kyosuke oddly. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** in contact with Kyosuke for a while, Tsunade asked himself if he knew Kyosuke well. How could this kid ever be polite? It turns out that Kyosuke will thank you too. When Kyosuke heard Tsunade's words, his forehead went black and he gave Tsunade a white look. Transsexual? Is this still human? Since someone can't hear nice things, then I didn't say anything. Kyosuke was rather speechless. Kyosuke suddenly felt really tired trying to communicate with Tsunade calmly. When the two were together, they either attacked each other with their mouths, or all kinds of intrigues, or they directly fought each other. Yo, it looks so real. Tsunade glanced at Kyosuke again involuntarily. Kyosuke's reaction didn't look like he was pretending. Following up, Tsunade happily patted Kyosuke on the chest a few times. Very good. It seems that the old lady didn't waste her efforts to save you these days. Tsunade was thanked by 500 Kyosuke for the first time, and he was in a good mood. From Tsunade's point of view, Kyosuke thanked her as if Kyosuke was soft on her. You know, every time you are with Kyosuke, Tsunade will be mad at her. Now, Kyosuke thanked him honestly. Tsunade slapped her once or twice and didn't like it enough, and then several more on Kyosuke's chest. These few slaps made Kyosuke so angry. His face started to turn green. You know, Tsunade is a physique-type ninja, and even if he doesn't use chakra, his strength is very scary. At this time, Kyosuke's injuries are not yet healed, and he is in a state of healing. He was beaten a few times by Tsunade, and Kyosuke almost vomited blood. Tsunade, you be D? Definitely did it on purpose. Kyosuke suddenly got angry and glared at Tsunade. Sure enough, there must be nothing good about being with a woman like Tsunade. Sorry, I didn't notice it for a while. Tsunade realized that Kyosuke was recovering from his injuries, and she just subconsciously slapped a few times, and it was a little heavy. However, when it comes to Tsunade's words, Kyosuke feels that she is simply perfunctory. There is no hint of apology in the words, coaxing children. No, you woman did it on purpose, Kyosuke said irrationally. Kyosuke is now a casualty, and Tsunade is at fault. He is in charge of this. How could Kyosuke let go of this rare opportunity, wondering how he had to get some good out of Tsunade? Furthermore, even if he doesn't get any benefit, he can take advantage of this woman to treat Tsunade well. I really didn't mean it, explained Tsunade, who was justified. No, you did it on purpose. It's easy to bully me when I'm hurt, right? Kyosuke continued to be unreasonable. Tsunade, I'm not. Kyosuke, you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to check for me this early in the morning? Who would believe that? 5 Kyosuke, I think you are planning to treat me like this while nobody is there. After Tsunade heard it, he was stunned. This? Looking at Kyosuke lying on the bed talking nonsense, Tsunade was speechless. Even Tsunade admired Kyosuke's utter nonsense. Can you go any further? However, Tsunade became a little impatient. Okay, didn't I just hit you a few times? It's a big deal. 35, with your current body recovery ability, what can happen? This is what it says. Kyosuke looked at Tsunade in front of him, and his expression became even worse. Emotion, listen to you. I should be beaten for nothing? Would you like me to thank you, CHFB? Tsunade. After Tsunade heard the words, she waved her hand as if she didn't hear the sarcasm in Kyosuke's words. No need to thank you. However, it was indeed my fault just now. Why don't I give you Ruru? After saying that, Gangzhou directly stretched out her long and beautiful palm and softly touched Kyosuke's chest a few times. This time, Kyosuke was stunned. Is it still possible to do this? Kyosuke only felt that he was completely shut down by Tsunade's actions on the spot. Cloudy and foggy. I don't know how long it took. That's okay. Tsunade's words suddenly sounded, awakening Kyosuke, who was in a state of downtime. Kyosuke's head is still a little dazed. What can it be? No. Although Kyosuke was stunned, he didn't quite know what Tsunade was talking about. However, with Kyosuke's undeniable temperament, he must have said no at this time. As soon as Kyosuke said this, Tsunade was not happy, and she said in a somewhat unhappy tone, Hey boy, don't be too aggressive. I've already done this. Old lady, are you still not satisfied? As the eldest princess of the Senju family, the proud daughter of the sky, and as one of Konoha Sannin, Tsunade has never treated others like this. Even her former lover, Kaido-dan, Tsunade, she didn't do anything intimate with him. Although the relationship between the two is very deep, but it's just out of love and out of courtesy. Now that Tsunade can tolerate Kyosuke like this, it is very rare. Hearing Tsunade's words, Kyosuke gradually came back to his senses. However, the image of Tsunade soothing his uneasy chest just now lingered in his mind for a long time and could not be dissipated. Oh, that's it? Kyosuke was still a little stunned. Obviously, Kyosuke's words contained a little nostalgia. Tsunade could easily hear the meaning in Kyosuke's words. I saw that on her clenched fist, blue veins could vaguely emerge from the fair skin. If it wasn't for Kyosuke still being wounded, Tsunade would have smashed Kyosuke into bed with a punch. Kyosuke, who sensed something was wrong, also came to his senses, and he restrained himself. Following up, Kyosuke looked at Tsunade lightly and said, You have to compensate me for mental damage. Mental damage fee? Tsunade was stunned when he heard this novel and strange word, but it was not difficult to guess its meaning from the literal meaning. Immediately afterwards, her face turned red, and she was angry with Kyosuke. How could this person be so shameless? Chapter 147. Uchiha Kyosuke. 39 Tsunade called out Kyosuke's name angrily, obviously annoyed. I tell you, don't mess with me, my patience is limited. Mental damage fee? Isn't that just asking for compensation? Don't even think about it. Tsunade only had that little savings, and she was thinking about making a few bets when she returned to the village. Although Tsunade is the eldest princess of the Senju family, she has a noble status and is one of the Konoha Sannin with a lot of income. However, no matter how much income, Tsunade can't hold back Tsunade's luck of being insulated from the god of wealth. Whenever she enters the casino, she loses 10 bets. But now, Uchiha Kyosuke is asking her to pay for her mental damages? How can Tsunade agree? Don't even think about it. Seeing Tsunade glaring at him with anger, his expression was like a lioness protecting her food, and it was ferocious and terrifying. Kyosuke felt that Tsunade had misunderstood what she meant. However, it doesn't matter. The Uchiha family has a great career, and Kyosuke, as the young master of the Uchiha family, lacks money the most. Tsunade's angry look was exactly what Kyosuke liked to see. Then, Kyosuke directly ignored Tsunade's ferocious expression and turned his eyes to stay on the snow-capped peak of Mount Fuji soaring above the clouds. Among the snow peaks, that glittering and translucent gleam flashed a green light in the vast white snow. Necklace. Kyosuke's eyes lit up when he saw that glittering turquoise green. That's good stuff. Tsunade's family, Senju family, are very rich. And this necklace that Tsunade has been wearing is the crystallization of the chakra of Tsunade's grandfather, first Hokage Senju Hashirama, and it is very valuable. Although, this chain is rumored to be cursed and is an ominous thing, except for Tsunade, all ninjas who wear it will die. However, Kyosuke didn't really care about that. Precious things are earned when you get them. What's more, it's the crystallization of first Hokage's chakra, which is a rare treasure. The necklace you wear around your neck is beautiful. 35 Kyosuke stared straight at the snow-capped peak with an altitude of over 1,000, and said slowly. Kyosuke's words immediately aroused Tsunade's alert, and she covered the necklace around her neck. Stinky boy, what do you want? Kyosuke shrugged his shoulders and said casually, It's nothing, I just think your necklace is really beautiful or… Sister Tsunade, just take it off and show it to me. As long as Tsunade dares to take it off, then Kyosuke dares to swallow it. However, what was on Kyosuke's mind, Tsunade didn't know. Want her to take it off? Don't even think about it. This necklace is a gift from her grandfather, which is of great significance and carries a lot of Tsunade's thoughts. Among them are the younger brother Senju Nawaki and the former lover. Of course, Tsunade didn't want to give it to Kyosuke, and also had concerns that the necklace itself was cursed. Take it down and show it to Kyosuke. Wouldn't that hurt him? Thinking of many Tsunades from the necklace, she couldn't help but feel a little sadness on her beautiful face. Tsunade, who was quick to sort out his mood, buried the necklace directly in the 1,000-year-old snow peak. Not only that, but she tightened her grip on the leader and said to Kyosuke, It's nothing fancy, it's just an ordinary necklace. With Tsunade, Kyosuke was not happy. Since I told you it was useless, I had to do it myself. Tsunade, that's not my fault. Don't be so stingy, Tsunade-san. 39, I'll just take a look. Just take a look. As he said that, Kyosuke reached out his hand and probed it with lightning speed. Since Tsunade is right next to Kyosuke's bed, the two are so close that they can be reached if Kyosuke gets up a little. Soon, under Tsunade's astonishment, Kyosuke managed to find his target in the snow-covered mountains. Not only that, but Kyosuke also sensed the temperature of the snow. It is not the coldness in cognition, on the contrary, it also has a warm temperature. It is also a good feeling to be in contact with Baishue. Run. However, none of this deserves Kyosuke's longing for too much. Real. In his eyes, there is only the necklace in the snow. At this moment, Tsunade was stunned. This guy, Kyosuke, dared to snatch her things openly. Simply lawless. This makes Tsunade angry. Stop. Tsunade glared at Kyosuke, who was holding on to the necklace tightly, and scolded. For flowers, Kyosuke was unmoved, but pulled the corners of his mouth and smiled at Tsunade. Sister Tsunade, please satisfy my curiosity and take it off and show it to me. Tsunade hits the nail on the head. Impossible. Once it is picked, it is definitely the meat into the tiger's mouth, and there is absolutely no possibility of taking it back. After speaking, Tsunade also grabbed the necklace and tried to pull it back. However, it is obviously not that easy. Since everything was already in his hands, how could Kyosuke let go so easily? So, Kyosuke also held on to the necklace tightly. Tsunade, are you going to let go? Kyosuke, don't let it go. Tsunade, stinky brat, your body is hard, right? If you don't let go, I won't be polite anymore. .00 Kyosuke, dare you? Tsunade, hee, there is nothing I dare not do, my mother. Kyosuke opened his mouth and threatened. If you dare to do it, then I will dare to rely on your Senju clan, and say that you Tsunade will take revenge. Always give up. Besides, I want to let the whole village know. 99 kindness and revenge? Abandoned forever? What's this all about? Tsunade was a little mad. Stinky brat, what nonsense are you talking about? Kyosuke ignored this and said directly, you must compensate me for my mental damage fee, and you must use this chain as collateral. Tsunade got angry. Don't even think about it. Kyosuke, Tsunade, cough cough. Just as Kyosuke and Tsunade were pulling the necklaces at each other, suddenly, an untimely cough came from the door. Hearing this voice, the two people who were still pulling the necklaces at each other couldn't help but froze. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared in the sight of Kyosuke and Tsunade. Long black hair, long blonde pupils, purple eyeshadow extending to the nose, pale skin, and blue tomo earrings. And there is the gloomy feeling that comes with it. At this time, Orochimaru was standing outside the door, looking at Kyosuke and Tsunade, who were pulling with a very strange look. In fact, the actions of Kyosuke and Tsunade are too misleading. Also, what did Orochimaru hear when he entered the door just now? Chapter 148. This scene, and hearing the conversation between Kyosuke and the others just now, Orochimaru suddenly raised a very absurd conjecture. Shouldn't the two of Kyosuke and Tsunade? Probably not. After all, the age difference between the two of them is too big, and they are both in their 20s. You must be overthinking it. Orochimaru thought so. Kyosuke and Tsunade here. At the sight of Orochimaru, Kyosuke and Tsunade both made concessions at the same time. Kyosuke quickly let go of the necklace he was holding onto and put his hand down. In the process, there will inevitably be snow. Fortunately, still not that cold temperature. Afterwards, Kyosuke couldn't help wiping his nose with the hand he took back to cover up the embarrassing situation. How does it smell? Where did 503 come from? Kyosuke thought hard and finally realized. It turned out to be the scent of white snow. Only then did Kyosuke know that Baishua also has a fragrance. It seems that seeing is not necessarily believing. Only by perceiving and practicing can you know whether it is correct. And Tsunade, when Kyosuke let go, also took advantage of the situation to bury the necklace in the snow and put it back. After everything was sorted out, Tsunade quietly took a small step back, pulling a short distance away from Kyosuke. I don't know if this is defending Kyosuke, or whether it is deliberately keeping a distance from Kyosuke so as not to be misunderstood. Then, Tsunade glanced at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, why are you here? Tsunade was very calm, turned passive into active, and asked Orochimaru directly. She did not feel guilty at all. At this time, Kyosuke also had to admire Tsunade's good psychological quality. Sure enough, he is indeed one of Konoha Sannin, the future big fat sheep of the ninja world. However, Kyosuke was relieved when he thought about it. Also, if Tsunade didn't have this psychological quality, he wouldn't be the famous ninja in the ninja world who didn't pay back his money. Tsunade. Orochimaru's voice, still as hoarse as ever, was surprisingly less annoying. Orochimaru just said hello to Tsunade. Then, Orochimaru didn't answer Tsunade's question and looked directly at Kyosuke lying on the bed. Kyosuke-kun, are you better? To be honest, Orochimaru came to Kyosuke suddenly in the morning, much more unexpected than Tsunade came here. This is really unexpected. Kind of scary. Before, after the war, Kyosuke was seriously injured and sent back to Konoha base camp, and Orochimaru only saw Kyosuke once at that time. In the few days that Kyosuke was recovering from his injury, Kyosuke never saw Orochimaru again. Kyosuke didn't care about that either. After all, Orochimaru was able to become his own teacher because of interests from the very beginning. It's much better. Seeing Orochimaru, Kyosuke looked a little embarrassed. However, Kyosuke quickly adjusted his mentality. Tsunade and the other party seemed to be fine, and Kyosuke couldn't be more thin-skinned. Orochimaru-sensei, why are you here? Kyosuke asked. Kyosuke, he was a little strange. Orochimaru came here this time. It's nothing, just to see how you're recovering, Orochimaru said lightly. Then, Orochimaru paused and continued. However, it looks like Kayasukuin is recovering well, not bad. Kayasuke had already pinched Tsunade just now, but Orochimaru could see clearly, so it seems that Kayasuke is recovering quite quickly. After hearing that, Kayasuke was a black line. Why do I listen to these words myself? And there are words in some words. Cut. 99 Tsunade, who was on the side, listened to Kayasuke and Orochimaru talking and cut in boredom. Now it's okay for her to stay here, so she's ready to leave. Don't disturb your master and apprentice. After Tsunade finished speaking, her hand suddenly placed on the side of Kayasuke's bed. After a pause, she pulled it back, turned, and left. Soon, Kayasuke felt the abnormality, and he couldn't help but be stunned. However, before Kayasuke came back to his senses, Tsunade left Kayasuke with a slender and sizable back. Tsunade-san. Tell me when you go back to the village, so I can see you off, and don't forget about that. You promised it yourself. Seeing that Tsunade's figure was about to disappear from the door, Kayasuke, who had come back to his senses, hurriedly shouted at Tsunade's back. You are so long-winded. There was a hint of impatience in Tsunade's tone. Don't worry, brat. You will definitely bring your little girlfriend. After speaking, Tsunade's back disappeared from the doorway. Duplicitous old woman. At this time, the corners of Kayasuke's mouth could not help but rise slightly, and he was obviously in a good mood. And in his hand under the quilt, unconsciously, a crystal-clear green necklace suddenly appeared. It was Tsunade's neck. This was stuffed into Kayasuke's hand when Tsunade left just now. At this time, Kayasuke's impression of Tsunade has changed a lot. Although this woman is very domineering and difficult to deal with, she is barely reasonable and honest. She actually gave you that thing? Kayasukuin, it seems that Tsunade is pretty good to you. At this time, Orochimaru, who was still standing at the door, suddenly spoke up. Just now, Tsunade shoved her necklace to Kayasuke. Although it was very covert, Orochimaru was aware of it. To be honest, Orochimaru was surprised and stunned to see that Tsunade actually gave Kayasuke her extraordinary necklace. You know, that's a very precious thing in Tsunade. Just gave it to Kayasuke? 5.1 Thinking of this, Orochimaru looked at Kayasuke with a strange look. It seems that Tsunade is quite good to Kayasuke. Orochimaru is no stranger to Tsunade's necklace, and even knows it well. That is ominous. Not everyone can wear it. Orochimaru has seen with his own eyes how horrific the death of his former student, Senju Nawaki, was when he went to battle, and Tsunade's dead lover, Orochimaru's friend Kaido Dan. Thinking of this, Orochimaru's already gloomy face became more gloomy. At this point, Orochimaru hesitated, and then he said to Kayasuke, Kayasuke, that necklace is ominous. 35. Chapter 149. Orochimaru saw with his own eyes the tragic death of Nawaki, a student. As a lesson from the past, Orochimaru, as Kayasuke's teacher, naturally did not want Kayasuke to have an accident. Maybe, after Kayasuke put it on, something happened on the battlefield. What should I do? Although Orochimaru has a rigorous scientific attitude, he is somewhat skeptical that this chain will bring ominous disasters. But how could he have seen it with his own eyes? Don't be afraid of 10,000. Just be afraid of what? If something happened to Kayasuke on the battlefield, it would definitely affect the alliance between him and Uchiha Fugaku. Moreover, as Kayasuke's teacher, Orochimaru doesn't want Kayasuke to have an accident either. The ominous thing? Kayasuke held the necklace in his hand in front of him and looked at it carefully. Not to mention, this chain is green, and its crystal-clear appearance is quite beautiful. Moreover, in the hand, there is a kind of jade-like warm texture. Orochimaru-sensei, are you saying that if you take this, you will die? 27 As soon as Kayasuke said this, Orochimaru was a little stunned when he heard it. You know, Orochimaru thought that Kayasuke knew the past history of the Tsunade chain. However, Orochimaru then saw Kayasuke, shook his head, and denied it. Kayasuke looked at the necklace in front of him and said, I don't know. 35 Even if I know it, I won't say it. After all, it's not easy to explain. Better save some trouble. Seeing that Kayasuke said he didn't know, Orochimaru didn't explain the reason, just reminded him a little. This thing is covered in some bad past. However, what Kayasuke did next made Orochimaru speechless. Orochimaru has clearly pointed out that this chain is an ominous thing, and wearing it will only bring disaster. But Kayasuke raised the corner of his mouth and put the necklace around his neck in front of Orochimaru. It's a waste not to wear such a good thing. Kayasuke smiled without worrying at all. And since this thing is mine, What does it have to do with me in the past? Kaiosuk looked confident. So don't worry, Orochimaru-sensei, I'll be fine. Not to mention that this chain is very valuable. It is a treasure. Even Tsunade gave Kaiosuk a token of his love. Self-righteous, how could Kaiosuk throw it away? Besides, Kaiosuk really doesn't believe in evil, so he can't do anything about this little necklace. Seeing Kaiosuk's resolute decision, Orochimaru did not persuade him any further. He came to Kaiosuk. In addition to visiting the student, he also wanted to tell Kaiosuk other things about the appointment of the village. However, it seems that there is no need to say more about Orochimaru. Since Tsunade was able to give Kaiosuk her precious necklace, he would naturally tell him about the appointment from the village. Tsunade has already told you about the appointment of the village, Orochimaru said to Kaiosuk in a hoarse voice. Kaiosuk nodded. Well, I said it. Now that Tsunade told Kaiosuk, Orochimaru didn't need to spend any more time explaining and analyzing it. However, Orochimaru, as Kaiosuk's teacher, had to say something. The battlefield here is over. According to the village's meaning, the battle situation is urgent in Iwagakure. So let me go to support Mr. Sarutobi. Having said that, Orochimaru turned to Kaiosuk. Similarly, on the Cloud Shinobi border, the battle situation is not optimistic. Kaiosuk-kun. This time the village will arrange for you to follow Namikaze Minato to support Jiraiya. Mr. Sarutobi? Forehead. When Orochimaru mentioned this, Kaiosuk reacted. Third-generation head Sarutobi Hiruzen is Orochimaru's teacher, and Orochimaru is his own chief teacher. This teacher-student relationship, doesn't that mean Sarutobi Hiruzen is his own teacher? Worthy. For a time, Kaiosuk only felt 5 flavors in his heart. Orochimaru didn't pay much attention to Kaiosuk's reaction and continued to remind Kaiosuk, Kaiosuk-kun, after you go there, be careful about everything. Orochimaru naturally knew exactly what the upper echelons of the village were thinking. As early as when Orochimaru accepted Kaiosuk as a student, Third Hokage, Danzo, and other high-level Hokage factions had opinions on Orochimaru. However, these are not stated in plain sight. But Orochimaru, as a student of Third Hokage, walked with the Uchiha clan. Can it be okay? The confession issued by the village this time transferred Orochimaru and Kaiosuk to 2 different battlefields, which obviously meant targeting Kaiosuk. What Orochimaru worried about was that after Kaiosuk went there, without his care, something would happen. Orochimaru kindly reminded Kaiosuk somewhat by surprise. Kaiosuk didn't expect that a cheap teacher like Orochimaru would still care about his students. Rare. With kindness from Orochimaru, Kaiosuk nodded. Don't worry, Orochimaru-sensei. With my current 503 strength, nothing will happen. 35 after the battle with One-Tail Shukaku, although Kaiosuk was seriously injured. But risks often coexist with opportunities. In this battle, Kaiosuk also gained a lot. His strength has been further improved. If the 8 inner gates are opened, the 5th gate can be opened without damage. Hearing Kaiosuk say that, Orochimaru nodded. With Kaiosuk's current strength, he really doesn't need to worry too much. Even the One-Tail Shukaku, Kaiosuk can defeat. How many people can threaten Kaiosuk's safety? Although Kaiosuk defeated One-Tail Morizuru, it does not mean that Kaiosuk already has the strength not weaker than Kage level. However, Orochimaru felt that Kaiosuk's strength was advancing by leaps and bounds, and he was getting closer and closer to the Kage level. It's only a matter of time before Kaiosuk becomes a Kage level powerhouse. On the border of Cloud Shinobi, Jiraiya is sitting there. Kaiosuk-kun, you don't have to worry too much about that, Orochimaru said. The Cloud Shinobi battlefield is where Jiraiya, one of the 3, is the Ghost Jiraiya. Therefore, Kaiosuk was transferred there, and Orochimaru was not too worried about what would happen to Kaiosuk. Jiraiya? Kaiosuk said silently in his heart. Chapter 150. Jiraiya, one of the Konoha Sannin, Kaiosuk just glanced at him from a distance during the graduation examination of the ninja school. In fact, Kaiosuk really wanted to get in touch with Jiraiya and take a look at the famous ISP in the ninja world and the future writer of Zio Wangshu in the ninja world. Kaiosuk thought about it, and now Jiraiya. It seems that he has not taken the first step of writing a yellow book. Next, after talking with Kaiosuk for a while, Orochimaru left. The room was calm again. The sudden arrival of Tsunade and Orochimaru one after another completely disrupts Kaiosuk's early morning dreams. Now, the sky is completely bright. Kaiosuk also didn't have the heart to continue to fall asleep. Simply, he lay on the bed with his head in his hands, looking up, thinking about what he was going to face next. Time flies. A few days passed again. In the past few days, a few things have happened. Now, Tsunade has taken Rin back to the village. And Orochimaru, after dealing with the more important things in Konoha base camp, went with the troops to support the Rock Shinobi battlefield. As for the rest of the matter, Orochimaru handed it over directly to Namake's Minato and let him handle it completely. Right now, only Namake's Minato and Kyosuke have yet to set off to support the Cloud Shinobi frontier, because Kyosuke won't be able to fully recover for a while. Therefore, before Tsunade and Orochimaru left, they discussed with Namake's Minato and decided to let Namake's Minato stay here for a while. When Kyosuke recovers, it will not be too late for them to go to support Jiraiya. After a few days of training, Kyosuke recovered quickly. Now, he can finally get out of bed and move around. Kyosuke walked out of the room, feeling the fresh air outside, and he couldn't help taking several big, greedy breaths. Coming outside, Kyosuke felt like he was in a new world. Standing in the sun, Kyosuke opened his hands, bathed in the long-lost warm sunlight. At this time, Kyosuke felt that he was finally resurrected. Yamanaka has no calendar day, and the cold does not know the year. During this period of time, Kyosuke, who could only stay in the room and lay in bed to recover from his injuries, truly felt this contrast at this moment. Although, this is a bit of an exaggeration. However, it is very apartment. If it wasn't for Lin's company with Kyosuke during this time to relieve boredom, Kyosuke might have been ill. However, now Rin has followed Tsunade back to the village. Thinking of Rin, Kyosuke couldn't help but think of the scene where Rin said goodbye to himself before he left. Back in time yesterday, Rin and Tsunade were about to leave for the village. At that time, Kyosuke did not forget to teach Rin to keep her in the village and wait for him to come back. Also, teach Lin to follow the Master Tsunade well, learn medical ninjutsu seriously, follow in Tsunade's footsteps, and become a big medical ninja as great as Tsunade. At that time, Kyosuke spoke to Rin seriously. As for whether Lin really understood the meaning of Kyosuke's words, Kyosuke is unknown. However, when Lin said goodbye to Kyosuke, her boldness was beyond Kyosuke's imagination. When leaving, Rin boldly plunged into Kyosuke's arms in front of Tsunade's master, feeling each other's warmth. Immediately after, Lin whispered in Kyosuke's ear, "Kyosuke-kun, I'm waiting for you in the village." 39 Absolutely. Be sure to come back. After finishing speaking, before Kyosuke could reply, Lin quickly turned her head and faced Kyosuke. Lin directly printed the girl's unique color on Kyosuke's side face. Then, the shy Lin hurriedly got up and left. What was left was Kyosuke, who was stunned. At that time, Kyosuke only knew that he was attacked by that little girl Rin. When Kyosuke reacted, he was a little dumbfounded. I didn't expect that Lin would also do sneak attacks. Looks like this scene, why is it a bit familiar? Kyosuke couldn't help muttering to himself. TSK, TSK, TSK. At this time, Tsunade, who was holding the world with both hands and watching all this in his eyes, couldn't help but let out a voice when he saw this. TSK tut in amazement. You kid, you can't think that it looks pretty good. You can actually let this little girl do this for you. Hearing Tsunade's thorny words, Kyosuke was speechless and immediately retorted. Hey, what does it mean to look good? I'm very good, okay? As soon as Kyosuke said this, Tsunade sneered coldly. Excellent? I can't see it. What method did you use to deceive the little girl in? 55 Tsunade was direct, and Kyosuke looked at Dao. Coincidentally, Tsunade noticed that Kyosuke had put on the jade green necklace around his neck. Unable to help, Tsunade was a little upset and vaguely uncomfortable. Even, she regretted it a little, and regretfully gave the necklace to Kyosuke for no apparent reason. To this day, Tsunade herself still doesn't understand why she gave the necklace to Kyosuke at that time. Is it a whim of your own? Or other reasons? Tsunade's words were a bit ugly, but Kyosuke was already used to it. Accustomed to this woman's vicious tongue, she spoke insincerely. So Kyosuke didn't care much. Instead, Kyosuke looked at Tsunade and laughed. You are leaving soon, and I don't know when we can meet again. Sister Tsunade, when you leave, give me a hug anyway. 35 That's not too much. You shouldn't be so stingy that you can't even do that. After Kyosuke finished speaking, he opened his hands towards Tsunade. After Kyosuke said those words, Tsunade couldn't help but look directly at Kyosuke. When Tsunade saw Kyosuke open his hands to her, Lee's how, he looked at her with a sunny smile on his rather handsome face. Tsunade only felt that her heart was pounding involuntarily, and her heart beat a little faster. Tsunade also didn't know why she did this. However, at this time, she had already paid no attention to these reasons. Kyosuke's actions made Tsunade a little overwhelmed. So, I couldn't keep calm. I turned around and prepared to leave. Uchiha Kyosuke, you're a jerk? Wait, I will not take care of you well after you return to the village. Tsunade said these words and left in a chaotic manner. The kind that doesn't look back. All that was left in the room was Kyosuke, who was extremely depressed on the bed. Son? Kyosuke-kun, Kyosuke-kun, Kyosuke-kun. Suddenly, there were several calls.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too. Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.